Sorry, so sorry. I hate my
All
life.
good. No, it's
All
okay,
right.
dude. I honestly, I feel like every time I turn on my stream, something wrong happens.
No,
So
it's
it
true. If
is.
there's ever an OBS update, it's like, well, rip for 3 hours trying to fix that.
All
Yeah.
right. Just go ahead and reintroduce yourselves because they didn't hear
Sure.
anything you said.
No, it's all good. They probably didn't want to hear it anyways. So I'm Robbo. I'm the community manager for Mortal Online 2. I'm also a player, just like hopefully all of you guys and people coming in, and I'm happy to be here.
And I am Squirrely, or streamer name is Squirrelly711. I'm the fishing guru of Toxic.
Emotional damage.
Chilling, teaching people how to fish, but super excited to be here.
Hell
Right.
yeah.
Sick.
So basically, I mean, I do want to talk about the patch a little bit. I don't want to roast
Yeah.
Robmo too
No,
much.
no. Honestly, it's cool. I told you I
So,
like roast me. It's fun.
so what were some of like the biggest like feedback for like criticism that you guys were getting about the patch? Like the like things that like people like didn't like the most, or like bug wise, or I mean, like
Yeah,
whatever
sure.
you.
Well, and I don't want this to sound like kind of like an excuse, but I've been pretty open. I've been lightly part of testing. And there were some things that we tested that was work not bugged, I guess you could say. And something I think something between Farmer Joe's. So if I call Joe, that'll be Farmer Joe. Um, between like his server side update and then him reverting it caused some issues. But in terms of feedback, like so there's the slash guard system, right? Um, and the idea behind the slash guard system, at least from the developer side, was that it was supposed to help situations, especially when AI gets maybe a little bugged. So, like, let's say you have like a guard facing, like, having aggro to a particular criminal and it doesn't change. You could do slash guard and it's supposed to spawn a guard and it's supposed to, chase a criminal. And in the testing, we actually had it so you can only spawn one per criminal, and that was fine. Like, because at first we couldn't, and we're like, no, that's dumb. Like, you're not going to have 30 guards chasing poor little Pootsin who just smacked his grandmother or something, right? And so that has become an issue, and so that was a problem. And they're right now, and even before, they're not leashing, not really,
Right.
anyways. Like they're
Yeah. So they'll
chasing
just.
forever, so that's bad. That's bad. And like, I feel really bad about this particular bug because players who PvP often, whether they're considered at least what I would consider like a bandit or someone who just, wants to guild versus guild and has murder counts, it really punishes them. And that's not that wasn't the intention to deliberately punish them. And so I imagine with some of the changes that happened before this content patch that a lot of those players are feeling kind of like um, bamboozled. They're like, "Oh, you're out to get me," and that's unfortunate. And I really feel bad for that. Um,
So was it
so-
one? Okay, so there's one
yeah, go ahead.
criminal.
Yeah,
If there's 3 blues, is that one guard per blue for that one criminal?
my understanding it should just be like one guard per criminal, regardless. So, I think that's what we had working. So, yeah, you have 3 blues. They see one criminal. They all do slash guard. Only one guard should come out.
Okay. What type of
That's
guard?
how. Just a regular, not an elite. Regular guard. He has access to a bow, but generally they charge for melee. There's a bit of an issue with regular guards and them drawing their bow right now. Um, but Yeah, so that's how it should work. And again, I think I'm trying to get them to make it so they leash like a city guard because there's no reason why a guard should just like run through the desert of
Chase into
Meduli.
the abyss.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Pulling like 10 guards of GK guys as a red
mhm.
doesn't matter. Doesn't
Yeah.
care
Just
about his rep.
pull
Yeah.
pull like 100 lictors up to GK or something, and
Yeah.
that would be nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I think I I don't personally, I feel like they might have not this particular change, but the slow changes they've been kind of making with town. Like they want towns to feel pretty safe, and there's probably going to be a point where either they're going to have to go all in, where meaning like maybe they just remove guards and just have lictors that only work within the city, like
Like
as long as it's strict
Pokemon.
within the city, or they have it this way because there's an intention in the future to take over towns. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, it
Um,
seems like they're just kind of half-assing both sides of it, and
yeah,
it just doesn't rub anyone the right way. I feel like it's like the people who want towns to be completely safe, like, still get fucked with, and then the people who like want to like go into towns still end up dealing with like very like buggy AI guards, and they don't have
Yeah.
a fun experience. So it's like
yeah.
nobody's currently winning. I feel like.
No, I totally
Different every
can.
day.
I could
Seems like the
appreciate
way the
that.
guards act. The way that the
Mhm.
guards act seems different every day. Like, for example, in Toxe, like one day we'll have people coming over to the bridge to try and kill people and just bother us and whatnot. And like, for example, was it yesterday or the day before? The guards chased a dude off into the woods and killed him when he was in an area that normally the guards wouldn't aggro. Whereas in the past, like we've had it where the guards will literally run across the bridge and just watch Grace kill people on the bridge.
Uh,
Like they'll just stand there and watch it.
Yeah.
And then there's been instances at the bank where that's happened, where the guards just they're not even in the sight range. But I think they've fixed that. But now it's a little bit on the other extreme because, like you were saying, where guards are leashing to eternity
mhm.
and like they'll
Y-
chase forever.
You know what I think could really help with this issue and so many other issues. And Robmo, I hope I don't know why they don't do it already, but can we please get like daily or like weekly server restarts, like the same time every day or every week, the same day and time, because like guards and animals and all sorts of fuckery shit happens because we don't get server restarts. I don't know why Starvolt is so against server restarts. It's such a common thing in MMOs. Nobody will care. Like, just it will fix a lot of the AI issues I think we have and have had for like forever. If we just get like if it's a weekly thing, great. If it's a daily thing, even better, because like it'll reset the AI, it'll reset the
Mhm.
mobs, and that'll fix a lot of issues without them having to like lift a finger. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, I haven't pushed for it lately because that was kind of a more common request, obviously during the dark times, the Q times.
Yeah.
And but I do think it's a good idea because you are right. There are times when like AI gets bugged and like a simple reset will just kind of revert everything. And to me, there's no harm. But as someone, I'm never going to claim to be a developer, a programmer, coder, a networker, that kind of thing. Um, I know for a while they didn't do restarts because they were really trying to test like what the server does during loads and stuff, and that was kind of part of that process. But I do agree. Um, and going back a little bit to the slash guard, I think like that feature is great for like maybe Toxai, which has a big kind of area and the guards are kind of like patrolling, but it doesn't solve the problem of like people being on weird rooftops and just like killing horses or
Out of
whatever,
line of
right?
sight.
And that's kind of again, it's this weird balance because like on a like when I talk, there's like three sides. There's the developer side, there's like my opinion, and then there's the player side, right? Because my opinion and the players may be different. My opinion to devs may be different, that kind of thing. I would love if each city had like an area of town that's kind of like scummy, like Murder Alley, where murders can happen or they maybe could happen depending on like, the guard patrols and stuff like that. But I do think personally, I do think it's a little cheap when people are on top of roofs and just like naked, you know, pretty much not losing anything and just like killing people. That's not a good behavior. But at the same time, it's a sandbox, right? So like, what do we allow? What do we don't allow, right?
Alonzo in chat says, from a dev point of view, restart is a shitty band-aid to the issue instead of things working normally. I mean, I
Yeah,
get that, but at the end of the
yeah.
day, like, it would fix a lot of the issues, and at the end of the day, you want to make sure your player base is having an enjoyable experience. And like,
Mhm,
I can't tell you how many mobs just between MK and Toxite, like there's razorbacks that like spawn in trees,
mhm.
and I kill them with
Yeah.
a bow, and that loot bag is not
Is
coming
up
down.
there.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is like an every single day occurrence, like every single day. And like, they spawn on rocks, like you can't access. Like there's just like so many weird bugs. And then like obviously there's like a bunch of guard stuff. Like the guards would reset on server restarts. You know what I mean? Like it would like
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like sure it's a
If it's
band-aid, I get it, but at the same time,
yeah,
like it's gonna fix issues so people are having more fun. Period.
murdering all your horses.
They're
Oh
having
no.
more fun. I would argue that they're while a server reboot would allow people to have more fun now, I think Star Vault's ultimate goal is to optimize the servers to a point where they can do resets, like where they can restart the server daily if they need to. But right now, I think there's so many back end net code and node line issues and things that they're just investigating that they need data points on to
You know how you
figure
do
out
that?
and resolve.
A public
Um,
test realm. You
Yeah.
don't do it in the
yeah,
live game that
PTR.
people pay for.
No, for
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah,
I
no, I
I
would
totally
agree.
I
PTR is good.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Squirrely. But I now obviously the devs have plans for the future, right? New
Yeah,
features, foundational stuff, bounty hunting, TC, all this. We're gonna bring, players might come back at content patches because a lot of games do that, right? Like whether they're subscription or not, people leave games, come back at the big jump. However, I personally, myself, I try like players are playing now, right? So players are playing right now, and they matter, right? So, that's kind of where I stand. I push for the now a lot. Like, yeah, I'll talk about
yeah,
people will be like, oh, the crime system's crap, right? Like that general kind of feedback or whatever, if you call it feedback. And I'll be like, yeah, there's going to be lawless zones, and there's going to be bounty hunting, and there's going to be the war deck system, and but that doesn't help the player today. And you lose a player today, or you disenfranchise a player today, they may not come back regardless, right? So um I for me, I totally get it. And so it is tough. I like making stuff better for the future is fantastic, but at what cost, right? So
yeah, yeah. And that's an interesting like they should actually do a study on that, do a case study on gamers
mortal,
returning. Well, not just
I'm sure.
generally speaking, because how many games like tell me a game that has released in the last 3 years that had a flawless launch.
Elden Ring.
Tri- it had a bunch of it had a bunch of issues with optimization on PCs and
Oh, okay, fair.
crashes and
As a PC
like
player, yeah.
they had to hot fix it several times over the first month.
I mean, are
Like,
we talking
but
about
give
games in
me
general or MMOs? Because is Elden
just
Ring even an MMO?
games in general, games
Oh,
in
okay.
general. You could narrow it down to that specific genre of MMO. Like, look at New World's
Terraria.
launch.
I don't
Look
know.
at
I'm just
I never played that. Yeah, like there, like I don't know of a game that I have played. Like I don't even pre-order games anymore because I know that the development curve has evolved in such a way that if you're paying that pre-launch premium price, you're gonna get a half-baked product. Maybe sure you're gonna get some cool cosmetics and stuff, but the game's gonna be broken when it launches because everybody has this instant gratification mindset and they want it now, 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 rather than letting a developer actually make their product the way that it's meant to be made. Like in the old days, like we were talking about before we started the podcast, Robmo, how back in the day you had to go to Best Buy, you had to go to Comp USA, or wherever the hell you went, GameStop. You had to buy a CD or a cartridge that had a completed product on it. Whereas now the model is keep it in alpha and then keep it in beta forever. I mean, how long has DayZ been in beta for? Or
Ooh-wee!
Rust? Like, how long
Yeah.
have they been in beta for? And those are what $40 games. They don't have a subscription model, but they could in the future. They could very easily implement it once they fully launch. But that's like the new model that developers, whether they're AAA or indie developers, like they follow this stupid model that's been accepted by everybody because we all want instant gratification
That's the
rather than an
problem.
actual finished product. So, and then we all bitch about it when we get this unfinished product because we're all too impatient to wait for the future and what the developer actually wants to do. But there's so many variables, like with Star Vault, for example. Like, let's be honest, we're in like a pre. This is a pre-launch phase. This is technically a beta still. We don't have subs. We're not. We paid the baseline $40, but they're still working on back end stuff like netcode, node line, AI, guard positioning in guarded towns. Like, they're still working on very foundational things for the game. In a year, the game's going to be amazing. But getting back to the whole psychology of it, like, people will come back to this game. It's such a unique experience, and it's such a unique game. And it's now on a graphics engine that supports that. A lot of people never played MO1 because it had garbage, coffee grind graphics in
Hey,
an
Coffee
age
Grinds
where
is my channel. It's my Twitch channel. How dare you?
that's your is it really, bro?
Yeah.
My brother is Coffee Cluster. That's hilarious. You
That's
guys should.
awesome. Sorry
Yeah,
to
yeah.
cut in there.
Oh, no, coffee dudes, man. Coffee dudes unite, man.
Well, I think
Uh
what the other
but
thing you're missing too is like the history aspect too. Is like, so MO1 ran for roughly like 10 years. I don't know exactly how many years or whatever, but
yeah,
like
10, 12.
a lot of the veteran players who played MO1 for a good portion of those years, even, I think would even agree that like Starvolt in all of those years still never fully delivered on like a
Yeah,
solid game, because there was like bugs that were there for almost 10
forever.
years, like did
Yeah,
not get fixed, that were a constant issue. People just got used to them, like, oh yeah, that's a thing, that's a
yep.
feature. Right, that's not a
Yeah.
bug anymore. After 5 years, it's now a feature of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So saying like, we're because what we were talking about is the server restarts, and letting them not do server restarts so that they can get a better product out of it by seeing the back end of like how like things like load or whatever you were saying. But like, realistically, like, there's no guarantee that will ever happen, right? So why not fix like problems you can fix now by doing server restarts? Why not have a public test realm for people who have already purchased the game, like a separate client that you download, just like World of Warcraft, and you can go and test like these like servers that don't restart with however many people. You can, there's like materials and crates like it used to be in beta, so you can like test the crafting and flush out systems. And then you can test these things on this realm, and then on the main realm you're actually doing server restarts, so like the buggy AI and stuff, until it actually gets fixed. It's not hindering your game as what is considered a final product. And not to mention, they were gonna start subs this month. I don't know, I doubt they are now, but that was what Henrik had said, is that they were gonna start. Dude, if they had started subs, this game would already be dead. Like, you're talking about people coming back. People might not come back because there might not be a game to come back to. It's like they,
Uh,
you know, like,
Regarding subs, I did hear him say that on one of his last streams, but I don't think he. Again, this is kind of conjecture. There's been no talk internally that I've heard about the sub date. I kind of always made an assumption it would come like after the first TC update. Maybe not the update, but like kind of like launch TC, make sure it's all right, and then. But I don't have any clues there.
Interesting. Yeah, see, my thought process on it is they'll implement subs when netcode is fixed, when you're no longer running into a node line and crashing and then
Mhm.
logging
that's
back
never
in.
gonna
And
happen. That's all. I promise you, that will always be a thing. I feel like that
Um,
was a thing
see
in
if
MO1. Like, I don't think that's. I mean, it might get better, but you're gonna run into things like that. I feel like, personally, forever. This is just my
you
opinion. I
think
have no factual, but yeah,
no,
I think it's always gonna be like a weird thing, because it's very hard to fix. Like, there's no instances, there's no load screen. You're loading from one server to the next. You got to deal with like pet AI following you, like horses, pet. What? It's always gonna be wonky, in my opinion, but I could be wrong.
yeah,
I don't know.
and the kind of like circle
could be.
back on your comment about like the history. So I've been very public about this. I'm not an MO1 player. If I knew MO1 existed, I totally would have been. All right. Because I that was my dream game. Kind of like Henrik, as you know,
Yeah,
you can call me little baby Henrik, but Star Wars Galaxies was like this wild game that started me on the sandbox
agreed.
genre. And But I listened to the history. I've watched videos on the history. This one YouTuber did a really cool video. He does Death of the Game. I can't remember
Yeah, I
what he's
watched
doing.
that.
Yeah, he did a Mortal Online one, which I thought was kind of cool. And I don't think, he does these cool investigations, but a lot of the players I talk to are also vets. And I understand from that player base side that they've been let down. And I know Henrik and their team, at least I would, based on what they talk about to me as well as like publicly, I feel like they've also learned, but there are times where obviously like with this patch thing, with the patch that happened, part of it was a bit of a communication problem between the test team and the devs, just some insight there. However, we're going forward when we're talking
So
at
it's
least
Patwin's fault. Fucking Patwin's, dude. Someone at
yeah,
Patwin. Tell him it's his
I
fucking
get
fault, dude.
yeah, and
Fucking
I've
dude.
heard
Fucking
that
Patwin.
meme for Patwin, but um again, this might sound like an excuse. This might sound like, oh, like empty promises, but just a couple days ago, the testing process, like this is after the patch, like literally the day of the patch, we've really changed the way we communicate with the dev teams and accountability and stuff like that. So I really am really trying to make sure that patches going forward were not as disastrous. Um, uh,
So I'm
you know,
curious. Are you able to give like any insight? First of all, do you know how many testers there are, and are you allowed to say or?
um, I have a vague idea how many testers there are. If I'm allowed to say, I don't know. It's a small team. It's fair
Okay,
to
is
say
it
it's
is
not
it under
enough.
is it under 20 people?
Absolutely,
Okay, cool. So
absolutely.
now, if you can answer me this, how do they convey information to the dev team?
Well, there there is so there's the dev team has like separate teams, right? So like obviously
Okay.
there's like a core team, you got like Harrius, you got Joe, you got maybe Kim, Toby, that kind of idea. Henrik as well. I don't know if Henrik actually does any of the coding or anything at all. I'm unsure. He might have back in the day, but now I don't think he does. And there's also art teams and stuff. So like they've talked about how their team's international, right? So like I'm unsure if they have an office. I know that sounds weird coming from me, but it's not important to my job, so I just haven't asked. Um, but there's a lot of there's some different time zones. There's obviously on occasion very little bit of language barrier, not much. But the de- the the test team would communicate like bugs through Discord or other methods or whatever, and it would be kept track there. But the problem was that it was just hard to tell um, what's been looked at, what's been not. And the devs also have their own like bug software, like tracking software. So there's just a bit of confusion, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but I can promise that some changes happened like yesterday and the day before, and it's already improved in my opinion. And so
Okay.
again, I don't want to give empty promises, and I don't want to say, oh, absolutely, like um next patch will be so immaculate that it's going to bring back 100,000 players or something silly like
They
that. But
don't want that.
no,
They
not
don't want
yet,
that.
not yet.
That'll
But
blow up
Ew,
the
no.
game.
I
Bring
do
back
promise,
100,000
like,
players, no one gets to play.
yeah,
Like
I
they
do.
literally, I think they wanted to sell like 10,000 copies at launch. Like they wanted like 10,000 copies to sell in like this
Mhm.
slow, calm, steady growth model.
Yeah,
That didn't happen.
and all I could say is that I've seen improvement already, and I am really trying because I contribute to the test team as well, and I'm a pretty forward guy. I'm actually to the point where I probably annoying them with my how forward I am and how direct, and I don't want to say take control, but I definitely try to be like, let's do this, and why isn't this done? And I'm very much like that, and so I have seen improvement. Like for example, even just dealing with the hot fix was we wanted it to come out a bit earlier, but um, it went well in terms of like testing and all that kind of stuff. So I really hope to in the I hope 2-3 patches down the line as patches come out, the player base will be like, you know what, it's getting better, and that I think that's going to happen. I'm really trying to do that.
What part? What do you mean getting better? What part of the patch is getting? What do you mean?
Well, all I'm saying is like obviously this last patch, and we did a bunch of testing, and a lot of the bugs that happened weren't in the test environment. It just didn't happen, you know? For example, the guard thing, the multi-spamming guard, that was fixed, for example. But I don't know what happened between the server side update and then him reverting it. And I'm not trying to put any blame, but I think it just screwed up some code. But if sometimes things also get in the past, things get missed, right? Like, like, oh, this bug seems obvious. How did you guys miss that? And like, we got a couple new testers this week. And they're great. So that's been really good as well. But the communication has been a lot better. It's a lot cleaner. And
So basically, you're just saying like you're like the patches in the future, hopefully speaking, like you're gonna be able to deliver better on what you're saying you're going to deliver. Is essentially what you mean.
yeah,
Hopefully.
I was saying more like the patches are going to be cleaner. That's what I was referring to
Cleaner.
specifically.
What does that mean? Like what
Not
specifically?
buggy.
Right,
It's
that's what I'm saying though. Like if you say, okay, we're delivering a guard system where you now can type /guard, it's not going to be come with like 3 different bugs in it. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be you're delivering what you say you're delivering.
okay.
Not
Yeah,
delivering. Hey, this is a guard feature, but hey, it has 3 bugs. We're delivering a
yeah.
guard feature. There's no bugs. We tested it. Period. Like
hmm
that's what you're saying.
hmm
Okay, I
And a
mean,
more
yeah,
rou-
I think, yeah.
also a more rounded experience, right? Like people like to kind of rag on me and be like, "Oh, you're a blue player. You don't have murder counts higher than 5. You don't think about this." But like I am one. Believe it or not, I annoy the devs and the test team with like, but what about this player who experiences this? And like, so when we test things, we try to test it from a blue perspective, a gray perspective, a red perspective, whatever, because it all, it's part of that box, and it's important that it all works. But I do hope I can prove that the next patches are in better shape than this last one.
I don't want to interrogate you too much about this stuff either, because
It's
I
okay.
do want to move on. I have some questions
Yeah,
for Squirrely that he probably
yeah.
will be
Go
more
go
excited to
for it.
answer. I do
I'll
have
enjoy
one
my
more question
coffee.
for you though,
Oh,
and it's not really a question. It was like someone mentioned. It's not even my question. Someone like mentioned it. Maybe it will help in your testing, or maybe you already do it. I don't know, but like whenever you guys are like thinking of like implementing a feature, it might help you to like ask yourself the question like, okay, I want to implement this, but how can this be abused or exploited? You know what I mean? Like if you ask
oh,
yourself that, then like I don't know,
I
maybe
I promise you, the testers and me go deep into that.
okay.
I've only been
Okay.
involved with testing myself, and it's been very light the past month. So I wasn't, 2 months ago, when I started as the CM, or 3 months ago, I wasn't involved with the testing, and I felt that I should, simply because then I can kind of have a greater perspective, right? Because I want to, be truthful to the player base and stuff, and but I do go into that a lot, and that's a big thing. Like, so I think sometimes, as a dev, you're gonna have like maybe a bit of tunnel vision, be like, oh, this is my feature. It's supposed to work like that, but it's just like, yeah, but everyone's gonna use it this way, you know?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
and we do go into it, and I'm particularly rough on it, whether people believe me or not. But end of the day, the dev team is a team, and the decisions aren't like mine or one dev. It's kind of like a team collaborate. Maybe Henrik has the final say. I imagine that could be the case, but um, it does go forward, and yeah, I don't want things to be abused, because then it just causes more problems that need to be fixed and unhappy people.
Right.
Have they thought
Sure.
about doing a PTR? Like, have they been
Yeah,
kicking
no,
that idea around?
no, they've been kicking that idea for a while, and I don't know exactly what's stopping them. I don't know if it's an issue of like, by making a PTR and having a dev like a dev test server and having the live server, if that like takes away from the server resource, or maybe they
Yeah,
just really don't
and
think the
cost and
engagement
everything.
of the test. Like, I don't know. Personally, right now, I'm not sure what's stopping them. I know for a fact, though, come like TC sieging, they really want to make sure that's like working well. So I think we'll definitely see
Emotional
something in the next few
damage.
months.
Well, what they should do is take a I think WoW does this. I'm pretty sure they do it. So you're not giving the public test realm necessary to the public for free. It would only be accessible to people who have purchased the game. So it's not like someone could just download the public test realm without purchasing Mortal Online and then just basically play the game for free. Decide,
Yeah.
oh, I don't really like this, after spending 500 hours in the public test realm. You know what I mean? Like it would only be available to someone who's already purchased the game, so they wouldn't really be losing out on sales or like profit margin. I mean, yeah, they probably won't have to sub to do the public test run. At least I wouldn't. That would be kind of crazy. Um,
Yeah.
but at least this way you get a larger pool for people who want to help you test and improve your game, but they're still consumers of your product at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that would be the best way to do it personally.
I don't know if there's a scare as well. I know you want to move on, but like maybe if like a player finds an exploit in test and they decide not to report it, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's a scare there. But at the same time, I mean, you're caught exploiting or something, you're just gone. They pretty much have like if they could tie you back to it, they have like no tolerance for that. So I don't know what the solution is, but I do believe a PTR is something that would help a lot, especially
I
for these
mean,
big content batches.
like I don't really realistically see how it'd be any easier to find an exploit in like the public test room versus just the live server, because you can. I mean, everything is accessible. If you're like, let's say you're in a GK guild, like you have access to Tefra, right? Like you're gonna get it regardless.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
I don't know. Testing. I mean, I don't think that should outweigh the risk of like
No,
allowing consumers to
that
test
was
it.
more of a shower thought of mine, more than like they've said
A shower
outright
thought?
said
What's that?
that.
What's a shower thought?
You've never heard of shower thought before?
No, I don't know what that means.
So shower thought's like when you're in the shower and you're just like
You're like,
like daydreaming and you're like uh what why do frogs do this? Like just weird stuff. Like
Why do
you know.
frogs do
dude,
this? Okay.
I don't
it's
know.
a really
Those
great
examples.
subreddit. You
Yeah,
should
shower
follow the
thoughts.
sub. Yeah,
Actually, there is a
Showerthon
subreddit.
subreddit. It's a solid subreddit.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time, there's some garbage that gets posted there, but most of the time, it's pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah, sorry.
No,
But
you're
yeah,
good.
let's go to Squirrely. I've been talking about testing. I want to hear about fishing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him, like, kind of like, how do you feel? I know you like the fishing system in general, but like, how do you feel about it overall? If there's could be any improvements or criticism towards fishing, like, what would you have towards it, Squirrely?
I mean, the biggest criticism I have, there's some bugs. I mean, just like the rest of the game, there's some weird, quirky bugs that happen with fishing. Like you can reset your line without breaking it, which is kind of weird. But that's also a mechanism if you're getting attacked because you're defenseless. Being able to parry with a fishing pole would be cool. Just like little
Harry, oh,
quirks. Yeah, because when you have your fishing pole out, like if you're reeling a fish in, you're quite literally defenseless. Like you have no defense mechanism, and then it takes 5 to 10 seconds to switch weapon to actually defend yourself. By then, if you have a merc squad that's trying to kill you, you're already dead because you have a fishing pole equipped and it's not blocking it. So you're quite literally as defenseless as a horse when you're fishing. So having some sort of defense mechanism would be cool. But I mean, I don't really have any complaints about the fishing in this game. Like the things that I've heard that they're going to implement, like pool depletion, fish pool depletion, is going to be awesome. Adding in stamina loss or stamina depletion while you're reeling the fish in the future is going to be absolutely amazing. Implementation of new fish, implementation of boats, whenever that might be 5 years down the road. Like the fishing, like I say this quite regularly on my stream. Like this game could be sold as a standalone complex crafting and fishing $40 and you'd get your value out of it. Like it actually kind of blows my mind that when they are marketing the game, they market the sandbox PvP aspect of the game more than they market the complex crafting and some of the other systems like fishing. Because they spent so many resources and so much time on developing these complex systems that people never really get to them because they pick this game up and they're like, "Oh hell yeah, PvP, let's just run around murking in a sandbox. This is gonna be sick. They get their 40 hours worth of entertainment, and they're like, "Well, I have nothing better to do." Like Blamed Pack said earlier in your chat, how he's done everything. He's done all the content in this game. And I asked him if he's caught all the fish. Nobody's caught all the fish. There are still fish that they ported over from MO1 that have never been caught. So people saying that there's no more content and there's nothing to do in this game is kind of crazy.
Well, maybe they
But
don't have the resources to catch those fish.
could be, yeah, it could be. Like we have different theories on why it is that we haven't been able to catch everything. Because it is very complex. I mean, they're going to be implementing different fishing poles made out of different materials. You're going to be able to craft them in the future. You may even be able to craft more complex lines and hooks in the future. Like there's a lot of content that they're developing and creating still. But as a whole, like circling back to your original question, like I don't really have a lot of complaints. I don't like to complain about video games though. Like I've played video games since I was like 5 or 6 years old. Back in the glory days when you got a video game that wasn't broken, like you could play it through the video game and never run into a game breaking glitch, you know? Whereas now it's like I've accepted the fact that every game that I ever play moving forward will never be completed. Maybe it'll be completed 10 years down the road, like No Man's Sky, or like Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be. But we don't get completed products at launch anymore. It just doesn't happen. Ever happen.
Well, the games are
Um,
much more complex than back
yeah,
then
that's
too.
another
So
variable. Nowhere near as linear as they once were. So it's much more difficult for that. But at the same time, we just have this model like we talked about earlier that we've
yeah.
all accepted, fortunately. But yeah, fishing. I honestly, man, I have no. I have
Well, I
no
wasn't.
complaint.
Not
I
necessarily just
love.
complaints, but like anything they could improve on that would make it more enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like,
Just the stuff that they already have projected, I think, is gonna make it better. I've heard a lot of people complain about like pool depletion. I think that's gonna add a layer to it. I just hope that the pool respawn timers aren't too long. Like you don't have to wait 24 hours to go back to a pool or something like that. Because that resource scarcity is a unique aspect of this game. But that same resource scarcity can drive uh, violence in PvP in the game, like around like ironwood. Like if you try to harvest ironwood solo, it's not gonna happen. Like it's just unless you're doing it like
I did it the other day.
3 o'clock in the morning or some like
Yeah.
off hour where nobody's freaking online, you're gonna get ganked while you're collecting ironwood because it's so resource scarce and it's such a good resource.
Yeah.
But that's my big fear if they implement the resource depletion for fishing pools is that people are gonna start fighting over the resources. But
that's
at this point, like fishing, you can get some of the best resources in the game and like you can just chill and hang out and we literally drink beer in game and catch fish and tell stories, joke around and goof off and enjoy the lighter side of the so it's great. I love it. But
when you
but I
were talking about the resource scarcity and like the pool depletion. My first thought is like, okay, is this how Squirrely is introduced to griefing in PvP? Because everyone's stealing all his fucking fish. He just loses it, snaps, and starts killing
see in
everybody.
my mindset because I'm a passive player. I enjoy PvP, but there's other games I would play if I want to experience kind of
Okay.
thing. Like I'll go play Escape from Tarkov if I want that hardcore PvP, emotional heart rate expansion causing a heart attack gaming, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe in the future I'll get it from this game, but like it's just I don't know. It's just not my style, and I enjoy that passive role playing, socializing aspect of the game. And I love fishing. Like I love fishing in real life, and the fishing in this game is very it's similar in a lot of ways, just with the mechanics and how it works, in like the RNG. So, so yeah, it's just good times. I really.
What I would like to see maybe, and this isn't, it's just not with fishing. You could do this with any resource. Let's say you go and you're doing ironwood, right? Like maybe you're walking up to an ironwood tree. It would be cool if like the depletion of the resource showed visually in the real game world. Like, let's say maybe like an ironwood tree, you would see like a big cut in it, and you
all
would know like,
over.
oh, okay, it's like depleted. You know what I mean? Like, or like completely
Yeah.
cut the fucking tree down, even like, you know,
Yeah.
and then rocks could like start cracking and breaking based on depletion levels. And then
Yeah.
something they could do for fish is maybe, I don't know, it's a little ambitious, especially when it comes to like stuff like turtles and stuff, but like maybe like a visual indicator in the water, like you could see the fish and stuff. Because like if they were ever to add like harpooning or something, that would be sick if you have to like sit there like actually aim and like hit the fish type stuff. And you have to be like a
Yeah.
maximum range away to make it more skill based and stuff. That would be you know, really cool. Or like they don't have like netting either too. Like they have it in RuneScape where you throw out the net, you know, like, bring, you know, catch back fish and stuff. That was a very simple early on means of fishing for, you know, in real life, like in civilization before the fishing pole was even a thing. I think nets were a thing, right? I don't know which came first, like the chicken or the egg, but I think people
Sure.
use like nets or other types of nets or like system to catch like a bunch of fish at the same time, or corralling fish into like an area and then, you know, like spearing them or whatever, like spearfishing. Like, I don't know, I think there's like a lot they could do. I don't know
Oh
exactly
yeah.
how they should go about doing it, but
Yeah, there's so many different systems that they implement. But honestly, like in my opinion, they shouldn't even be working on content right now. They need to figure out their net code and back end stuff fixed. And like you were saying earlier, like node lines were always into an one. I never got to that point in that game. But they got to fix back end stuff before they can start implementing content. Because if they have another population explosion, it's just gonna break the server again. Uh, and they don't want that. That's Yeah, they need the sustainable growth.
oh, okay, he converted to English. I didn't know what that guy said.
Oh,
By the way, where's
Uh,
my ogmium, Robmo?
I don't know.
What the fuck, dude? Where's my
Yeah,
ogmium, man?
yeah, I don't know yet. I'm not sure where that's on the roadmap slash plans, to be honest.
I don't
Um,
remember, but I thought we were supposed to get that
oh,
at launch.
it's
Didn't they
I
say that was
I
coming?
I also don't remember, so
fish
I'm not gonna
server
say
side.
yes or no because I really don't. Yeah.
So what they can do with fishing, they need to make the fish server side, not client side.
What does that mean?
That's
What do you explain?
okay. So when you catch a fish right now, like on your client side, so if I catch a fish, I see it on the end of the pole, but nobody else will see that fish on the end
Oh,
of the
oh, okay.
So
I see what
make
you mean.
that
Yeah.
server side because we always joke about like running around town with a giant ass sand ray or silk ray on your line and just slapping people in the face with it. But
Yeah, that'd
nobody
be
can
Doesn't
fun.
actually see.
wouldn't that affect
Nobody can see what
performance
you
or no?
I mean,
that
I'm
that
sure
would
it would a little bit, you know, but
Well, that I mean, like if you're doing that all, I mean, because I don't know how the servers work. If like
oh, you
there's
know
like
what?
little nodes in the server, or if it's global, like, I don't know.
Well,
But
maybe it's the physics is probably pretty CPU heavy, so I would assume that if everyone was running around with little dangling little
oh dude, it
frog
would
on
cause
their
crash. It would be bad. It'd get
who
real
yeah,
knows?
bad.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It'd get
Ramo,
ugly.
question,
Yeah,
hands raised. Um,
high five.
how do I say this not in a rude way? Why the fuck are we getting like Belvis and like fucking like water buffaloes and shit when we don't have like Mulvas and light gators and other types of mounts? We
That's
don't
a
even have bull horses.
that's a fantastic question. I have no idea.
It's
So,
probably the animation
God.
team. That's what
I
they've
would.
done.
It's probably that. Maybe they're picking things that they could somewhat reuse animations. I'm not honestly in terms of their scheduling for creatures. Haven't looked into it, so I haven't seen why they're picking what they're picking. Um, you know, maybe the bulbous is going to be coming. Like again, I'm a little. Is it bulbous? Is that how you call it? Bulbous?
No, I wasn't laughing at that. Someone said said, "Chat, how do I say it in not rude way?" Putson starts with "Why the fuck."
Yeah. Why the fuck? Yeah. Okay, we could say fuck on the podcast, right? Not too late.
Yeah, you could say it, yeah.
Okay, so my assumption it also has to do with how they're releasing certain content. So like the bulbous, for example, I don't know this for a fact, but maybe it's going to be part of the necromancer dungeon that's coming with the necromancy, maybe, right?
Oh,
Wait, there's
Right.
a
Well,
necromancer dungeon coming?
yeah, yeah, it's coming. It's going to be a dungeon and
yeah.
necromancy on the same
It's a
patch. It's
bunch of
part.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's
So
the dungeon that's kind of locking necromancy. Like you have to go do this to get this item for necromancy types, like
my
with spiritism.
assumption is yes, it would make sense. And I can't remember. It was recent on the stream because I think someone straight up asked me like, "Are we gonna have to go to the necromancy dungeon to get all the necromancy?" And I think there probably will be another way to get at least one of the books because I assume I haven't seen necromancy yet, honestly, but I assume you're gonna have necromancy and then you're gonna have like animal magnetism, and I don't know if both books will drop. It'll be interesting though. That's going to be a really big PvP spot when that drops, man. Especially if
Yeah,
there's
it's
only
gonna be
one server,
crazy.
it's going to be wild. I'm
Yeah,
kind of excited to see that, for better or
it'll
worse.
just be guild after guild camping each other at the entrance of the
I
dungeon.
mean, we've already seen it though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be hot for a week and then it's gonna die out. You know what I mean? Like, no,
Well,
it's the same old. Like, it's not anything.
it might be hot. I think it'll be hot a little bit longer, and I say that simply because like everyone's been waiting for like a magic thing, and like you know that meme with like Homer at the bar, and then everyone's like doing something else that Homer's not doing. It's going to be like that with necromancy. All the mages are converting. They want to be able to move. All the dex mages will probably
Okay,
grab it at least. But that's my
let's stop you right there. First of all, we know the dungeon's gonna be in Meduli because everything happens in Meduli. Second of all, it's gonna get zerged by Kodo, so only 2% of the guilds in the game are gonna have access to this. So there goes your whole argument. It's in Meduli. Kodo's gonna own it. Legion's gonna own it, and that's it. Like nobody, everyone else get fucked.
damn, damn,
Welcome
damn.
to Mortal 9, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be
I know
bugged.
nothing about
Okay,
guilds.
actually, can I ask a question
Yeah, go ahead.
of you? So what's your take on like larger guilds potentially locking down content and like kind of swinging their ferocity around, like um
If they can
like
do it, why not?
no, but what if, as for a player, for you, like I know you're an acolytes, right?
Yep,
um I know I don't know what their size is now, but like
dead.
I okay, cool. So acolytes, being a bit smaller than they used to be, how do you feel about like engaging in the content as like that guild of size? Do you feel like you're missing out? Do you feel like it's a challenge? Like I'm curious, like what your
Well,
perspective
what
is there.
size content is it? Like, I don't know how many numbers it's gonna take. What dungeon are we talking? Because we're not talking about
I-
necromancy. We don't know.
I'm not. I'm being very general. So like
Right,
all
but you have to
content.
tell me. You have to give me an example because every different content requires
For
different amounts of people.
So if Kodo went and decided, hey, I'm gonna lock down the southwest portion of the map, and they go down there and they lock down the Seder dungeon,
Okay.
and nobody can get in or out of the Seder dungeon 24/7, and it's just their property. You have to go through Kodo or that massive guild in order to get into that content and unlock that content.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
Like it
Um, just
does
be
that
better. Have more friends. Like
okay.
That's Kodo's every right to do it. You know what I mean? If the
So
No.
it's part of the
mechanics in the game
game.
allow it, yeah.
Mhm.
Like
It's part of the
that's why I don't know who uses an example. That's why guilds get in alliances in the first place is because they don't want to feel like they're unempowered to do something, whether it's like sieging or holding down an area or going into a dungeon. Not having the manpower to do that with just your guild, like you get an alliance, so you have more manpower for content. Like that's on the player, that's on the guild. That's just how the game is built. It empowers you to allow yourself to develop these relationships to achieve or not achieve whatever you end up doing or not doing. You know what I mean? Like if you can't wipe 30 Kodo and they're there 24 hours a day, that's on you. That's not on them. Like they're gonna do it. They're allowed to do it. Why wouldn't they do it? Type shit. So
Do you? I kind of agree. Like, I always
Yeah.
use this, and it's probably like a broken record. Like people are like, "Rob, you're dumb," but like, I love the aspect of the sandbox and like the community creating like these dynamics that kind of change the way you might play. But do you think, as whether you're a casual player or just a regular player, whatever that may mean, do you think that discourages people at all? Like, I
Yeah.
personally, I think it should be loud. Absolutely, I'm not saying
Yeah.
like, oh, don't have big guilds, but I'm curious. Do you feel that it's like something that will turn people away?
I think it'll turn
absolutely.
it off.
it definitely turns people away, but it also is essentially the lifeblood of the game. This game
Hmm.
is like run on like rivalries. It's run on the politics and the drama. I mean, Squirrely will probably disagree because he doesn't dive into the full aspect of the game. He like focuses on this. Not to say that's a bad thing. Like if you enjoy however you enjoy the game is how you should play the game. But if you like try to play like the whole game, the whole perspective of the game, you're gonna be a part of the politics. Like there's no way around it. If you own a castle, you're part of politics. Whether you like it or not, you have something that everyone else wants. Like you're in it. Like how deep you are in it is gonna vary, obviously, but you're in it. And basically like if the game wasn't just declining in fucking population, Kodo's like currently what I've seen, Kodo is like taking like a lot of people from a lot of guilds because everyone just knows like Kodo has activity. Like if you want a guild that's doing things all the time, has the numbers, can do whatever they want essentially because they have the numbers, like people know like you can go to Kodo and you'll get that. Like that's a
One
certainty
dude
there.
from Kodo, one person from Kodo ever.
What do you mean?
I'm
What?
starting to believe. I've met one person that's a member of Kodo
Well,
ever.
you live in Toxide. They live in Medulla. I
I
mean,
know,
that's
I know, I know. It's
oh
hilarious that I've met
oh.
one person from Kodo, and they're like the biggest guild in the game. And there's been one person that's come to Toxide to fish,
But yeah,
and he
but
was
but
cool. He was super chill.
but my point is like if like Kodo like grows and grows and grows, if the game population wasn't like this, you would see opposing forces rise up to challenge them. But because the game population is on a decline, like they're kind of just they're growing, or I don't know exactly. I'm not in Kodo, but like it seems like they're constantly getting members and they're constantly growing, and there's no way to counterbalance that currently because the game is on the decline, and that's not on the population to fix. That's more on the dev side to fix because like
No, for sure.
you know what
Well,
I
I
mean,
agree.
like that's just how it is. So
but circling back to the controlling the map and stuff. Like if you have one guild that's controlling everything, it's killing the game for casual gamers and the small group guys that just want to like play a few hours a week and experience some of the content. Like that's taking content away from that casual gamer, which is a pretty large, I would argue it's a pretty large percentage of the gaming community is casual. Granted, this is a more hardcore game, but with the structure, and I would argue that that's part of what killed MO1. Like me, I put in almost 100 hours in MO1, and I was just a solo player, kind of doing what I'm doing now. And I got griefed out of the game. Like I just kept getting killed by people, like random people at graveyards and in towns and shit like that. And I was like, this is stupid. I'll go play a different game. And that's kind of my mindset now. Is like if I started, like if people were just coming to talk, say, and just constantly killing people fishing and making it a miserable experience. Like there's a dozen other games out there that I enjoy that I could play right now. That I would just go play. And most of the people that fish and that I've met fishing and that enjoy fishing a tremendous amount, and that's like their primary thing they do. Like they enjoy that because it's relaxed and laid back because they have a shitload of stress in their real life and they just want to hang out for a couple hours and fish. But if they log in and they're instantly getting griefed, they're going to quit playing the game. And I've talked to a couple people that are like, yeah, F this, the guards are broken. I'll come back in a year and try the game then. Because they don't want to deal with that stress. And I can understand that. I can relate to that. Uh, but
Now, I want to counter your point, and I agree. Like, I think it's fantastic that people can just look at fishing, for example, and like just have a game out of it. But isn't it kind of fun to have like, again, I'm not using this as an example, but the evil empire where there's one big group, and then all the small groups come up together. Like, for example, Wolfpack and Odin Seed versus Kodo has been a kind of an interesting development,
it's
and
been
like,
entertaining. But it's
yeah,
been
and
one
it's
sided.
very one sided. Yeah, I was gonna say like
no,
they're
I'm
not
just
good.
I'm just
The
saying though, it's interesting, and it's
yeah,
like it's
as long
and like if the whole like for example, if a whole server came up together to like overthrow a particular guild, I think that
but
would be really cool. And then
that
there's the
would be
dynamic.
next to impossible to
Damn,
do with a game like this because you'd have to
Robbo
have
just hates Kodo, man.
global, like you were
No,
talking earlier,
oh,
Robmo. Like you were talking earlier, Robmo, about issues with communication between the dev team and the testing team. Like the amount of communication on the player level necessary in order to overcome something like Kodo I don't think it could happen. I don't think there's no way every guild globally could bind together to take on the beast that is Kodo right now. It's
Oh,
just
I disagrry completely.
I don't
Like
think they could
no guilds
communicate
in the
and
game
coordinate.
care right now to do it because first of all we don't have sieging, so it's impossible. But once we
Yeah.
have
I don't
sieging,
know.
I think you're gonna see a lot of change in this game. Like the
Yeah,
landscape of the game is going to change every single day once sieging comes out. Like literally, there will be houses here one day, the next day there won't be. There will be strongholds here one day, the next day there won't. Like sieging is going to change the. I think the
But
game is literally in beta when there's no sieging. Like nothing matters.
yeah, I'm curious to see how frequently there's changes in power with castles, though.
Oh, there will be a lot of changes. Like a lot of the
I don't
castles
think
that
there
we have
will
now
be.
will not be there. You don't think they're
Oh,
okay? We'll
Yeah,
see.
I don't think that there will be. I think that there will be a couple guilds, like there was in MO1. What was it, RPK, and there were like 2 or 3 guilds in MO1 that just controlled everything. And I think that will happen again because, like Kodo, from what I've heard, they have incredible communication. Like their leadership structure and just the way that they function, they're very well organized. It seems like. And who is it? Kuthara is the leader. Like it seems like Kuthara is very good at leading. Like I've never met the dude and I've never talked to him. I've heard a lot of people talk crap about him and I've heard a lot of people say really good things about him. So, but from looking on the outside in, it seems like he's a great leader. He or she, I don't know if it's a dude or a chick, but they're a
Nobody
really good
knows.
leader. They're a good leader and they can bring people together. And if you have something like that, like the game will get dominated by a couple guilds. There will be an oligopoly on guilds
Well,
because it's just
I'm glad you brought it up because do you know what happened to RPK and MO1? They're a
I
perfect
have no.
example.
Didn't they break up? Like they got huge and then they broke up and there was a lot of like internal strife.
Yeah, without like
And
too
then the
much
game like
detail,
ended.
essentially the old leaders, like the original leaders, like eventually Kuthara is gonna probably take a break from the game, right? And maybe one day he comes back and the guild's not running like he wants it to, because that's what happened when RPK is like when the original leaders came back, there was a huge split in the guild, and RPK was basically like the guild and MO1. I mean, this is towards the end of MO1. The game was super dead at this point. I don't know how many players. Let's assume like less than 1,000 or 1,000 ish. But like they basically dominated the whole map. They had like 4 castles across like multiple guilds or whatever. Like they like nobody could contest them. Like they were just the guild. And eventually like internal strife, like they got bored. Like they were an RPK like griefer. I don't know griefer, but like a very heavy PvP guild. And when there's no one left to fight, it's like they got bored and they end up splitting because of differences in opinion. I don't think it took that much to make them like their whole guild split and siege each other and all that. And
But look what happened
that's
to the
what will
game.
always happen though.
Yeah, so you're supporting my argument that 1 or 2 guilds is going to take over the world, and then
Eventually, yeah, but
when that
they'll
happens, it kills the player base, and then once the player base is dead, that one massive guild is going to fracture off, and
well
then
the
at
player
that point you
base
have
has already
you've
dropped to a
broken the
10th,
game.
and a guild isn't even close to conquering the whole world.
yeah. So one thing to
Yeah,
keep in mind too is that like in again, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not a vet of MO1, but MO1 also had like a different kind of like TC like wall structure. So like guilds
yeah,
would like wall off content. And so in this
yeah.
game they have the keeps, which people are gonna build cities and stuff around it, but I do not believe that any kind of wall system is going to happen. So
No, it
it's
won't.
going to allow for a lot more freedom of movement. And I guess I maybe I'm wrong, but I would argue probably easier sieging in the sense of like you have a target, you have a keep, you could siege it. I guess it all depends on like what owning a keep will mean for the vague area of that where the keep is, in terms of control and like rules you set or whatever, right? But I do think that MO2 is in a better place, at least from my understanding, in terms of countering. I guess you could call them Zerg guilds. Um, I'm hopeful that there's good power struggles, but I mean I've
It's all going
seen
to come down to the player
I've
base.
seen players wipe the floor with other players that they're outnumbered by. You know what I mean? And so, but I've also seen just Zergs just kind of like stomp on small groups too. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's interesting, right? I like seeing the shakeup. So
So
whenever I'm like, yeah, the Kodo Odin Seed Wolfpack thing's cool. People are like, you hate Kodo. I'm like, no, it's interesting.
yeah, and it's all gonna come down to the player base and how they play. Like I've actually really enjoyed the last week when Kodo and Odin Seed have been warring. Um and it's been fun, even though it's been a very one-sided thing. It's been very enjoyable for me to watch. And Kodo hasn't like stomped them into the ground to the point of demoralizing Odin Seed to wanting to quit. Like that's my big fear, is that there will be a big guild like RPK that's very PvP centric, and they just run around zerging, murdering everything, and like killing the fun for the game for the small time gamers and the casual gamers. And then we'll have a repeat of MO1. Like territory control is so, and New World is a great example of what can go wrong with territory control. Like in New World, a lot of the servers got overrun by one or two guilds. Like it's gonna happen because there are people that are incredible leaders and incredible communicators and incredible at creating community and creating that focus, and people just get behind them for whatever reason. But if those people use that power in the wrong way and they turn into griefing art, and I don't like to use the word griefing, but if they turn into like PvP RPK focus, it's going to kill the game. It will kill the game because there's a percentage of players that they're not into that. They're not into that. They like the complex crafting or the fishing, like me. Like players like me, we're a minority, but we are a percentage of the game, And if you drive that percentage of the game out, that is a pillar that is then gone, and the structure will crumble.
Actually, I don't have exact numbers, but I actually think the casual, the and the I would say the player that isn't like full RPK actually is a larger portion of the
It's
population than
larger,
what you
yeah, yeah.
based on what the devs believe on their data. But I mean, a lot of players also want to do PvP right now. But because of going red and some of the, having to find a priest and all that stuff for a while, a lot of those players just don't. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's as doom and gloom as the first game in terms of like conflict and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
not
I don't
having
know.
walls. I think not having walls and being able to actually wall off um
Yeah, that seems
regions, like
silly.
what happened in MO1, because there's a lot of areas where it's like it's very tight, so it's very easy to
Mhm.
wall it off. It's like a one way. And that's one of my actually that's probably one of like my biggest complaints about the game, is that with the exception of the Solano cave and the sewers, like most dungeons, it's a one way in, one way out. So it's very like completing that PvE content without running into PvP conflict. It can be very challenging, and if the game continues to grow and the population continues to grow, and it doesn't fall off a cliff, um, that type of content will be very difficult for the casual gamer to complete, because they're just going to get camped every time they try to go to Satyr Dungeon, Minotaur Dungeon. There's just going to be people hanging out at the entrance, knowing someone just finished the dungeon, and they're going to be able to mop up the floor and get their loot. So
But that's
having
like,
multiple entrances and exits from a dungeon could be very, like the sewer. The sewer is a great example. Being able to get in and out of the sewer from multiple locations is really beneficial for the player. But
I mean,
there's a lot of bottlenecks.
you have the option to play this game solo. I don't think even the devs are going to tell you that that means you're going to be able to do everything that you want to do in the game. Like, the point of the game is the politics and the territory control. Territory control doesn't mean just physical assets. It means if you have 100 people living in Bhakti and you're the biggest guild there by 5 times the numbers, you're probably like controlling Solano Cave because it's right nearby. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of the territory control, is being able to lock down valuable resources and whatever, based on like your PvP skill and prowess and like what you're able to field. Like, I think I think that's what the game is all about. I wouldn't want to see that go away by giving, multiple options for escape and of being able to avoid PvP easily. I think if you want to experience part of the game in like a certain area, you need to reach out to guilds and make agreements with them. Pay. You have to dip your toes into the political aspects of the game, and like that's the social aspect of the game.
I
I don't think you
I
should be able to play the game solo, never just talk to anyone. You know what I mean? Not saying
yeah.
that's what you do or anything, but
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I do have a little guild, but generally, I've been playing solo a lot, and as a solo player, something that people may or may not understand is you might not be able to do everything. You can't fight the Minotaur King, you can't fight the Clothos Queen. However, you could get everything. So, you can grind cash until you can buy that Blood Silk book or, that Draconian book or whatever, or get the materials you need. So the game is allowed, and I mean, when I look at the game personally, I see it's a sandbox, and you're like making your own career in a world that has a social aspect, which is kind of like a, a type of meta on top of the game system's rules, right? And I always found that interesting. And yeah, you know what? There may be a time where certain politics drives or brings people part of the game, but that's the beauty of this game. And so the game does have like casual gamers, but at the same time, most of those casual gamers come in and they understand that this is kind of a full loot niche, and there is I you know how there's like a learning curve. I call it almost like a social curve or like a culture curve with this game where even when I started playing back in the first stress test, when PvP was a little bit more of a wild west than it currently is, you'd get killed at the graveyard in your first few hours for hours. And you'd be like, man, this is crap. But then you'd find ways to like avoid it and do other stuff. And like people aren't used to that. And so you have to have a little bit of backbone for this game. And even like, Henrik's was like, oh yeah, you're getting murdered in Bhakti, move the Meduli or move to Fabrinum. Noobs don't come to Fabrinum, but uh,
So, dude, a
but
lot do, man, because Fabrinum is Haven. People are
yeah, it's my
a
home.
lot of people. Their first roll, they will go to Fabrinum,
it's my
and
li-
they will.
it's my little shitty home. I like Fabrinum. And even
I liked
before,
it, man. It was
yeah.
cool when I went. I
Well,
didn't
I
get
mean,
killed.
to give you an example, okay, so like Fabrinum beta, Squirrely, how did you pay beta at all?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I played a little bit of beta. I did.
okay. Well, I guess fishing kind of came in that like last 2 months, I think, before
Yep.
it launched in December or January.
Yep.
But like Fabrinum was always kind of like a PvP hotspot because you got Kranesh and like a lot of people
Oh
go
yeah,
there, and
Central.
the graveyard can pull people quite easily. People go to the graveyard to gank little nooblets and to pull out the militia, right? And that's fair tactic, right? Um, but then Odin Seed started coming around, and like the cultures changed, and like that's kind of fun. I remember playing beta when the Acolytes basically owned Fabrinum, if I'm recalling correctly. That was like early beta stress test and stuff as well, and then they kind of were starting to go to MK. So to me, that's super interesting, and I love that, right? And one day maybe the Odin Seed guys will get absolutely crushed, and or whatever, right? And some new guild will come in, and I don't know. I love it. I think that's great, and I think I could definitely like I understand from a player who like spent 4 hours doing a thing and then them just getting raffle stomped by like four mounted archers or something, like just coming back. Like I get that frustration, but you have to take it as like, I lost this because of it's part of the world, and then when you succeed the next time, it's ever sweeter. But
Yeah,
that's
no, I would agree. But when it's every single time, when you can't successfully do something without doing it in off hours, that's when you start running into issues.
fair, but
Um,
what's stopping you other than having things already? But what's stopping you from going somewhere else and trying something different for a while, right? And again, not everyone's gonna agree with that, and maybe you spirit walk to Meduli and you get, go to the desert and get mobbed by another group, right? I so
that was my
this
MO1 experience right there in a nutshell. Like going
yeah,
from one city and chilling and hanging out in the graveyard trying to learn the mechanics and stuff, going from one to another and just getting mopped everywhere I went because I was a solo player and I knew a couple people. I wasn't all that social. But everywhere you went, there was a group of people camping the graveyards and camping noobs and making the experience for a new player very difficult to really like plant the seed and allow it to grow, you know? Like I put 100 hours into MO1 and I got driven away. And I feel like 100 hours is a pretty high threshold for patience and like giving it a chance. But most people are going to play a game for 20 hours in it if they're doing what you say and they're just getting mopped everywhere they go and nobody's teaching them the game because you're right, the skill ceiling for this game is incredibly high. Like I've literally seen people rage quit this game fishing. They got so pissed off at breaking lines and
Oh no.
losing hooks that they rage quit and they were like, fuck this, I'm gonna go play Elden Ring. So the skill ceiling, like if you don't have players willing to teach the community and you don't have a tutorial system in place, to really teach the in-depth mechanics, it it can go south very quickly and it can be very difficult for that seed to actually grow roots and grow into a plant for a player to actually coexist in the chaotic world, you know? It can be very hard. Um, in that situation. But I agree. I love the risk reward of this game, and that's why I play it, and that's why I love it. It reminds me a lot of the old school games like Ultima Online. Like if you're gonna go mining in Minnock, you're probably gonna get PK'd with your load of ore if you're not careful with it, you know? Um, so that risk reward, but balancing it can be very challenging. And I just hope that they don't repeat the same things from MO1 with not having places that are safe.
Well, that's why I
Or
think Haven actually fails in its purpose because it doesn't at all like like
Express the
communicate
danger.
to you like
Yeah.
how gritty and
risk.
hardcore this game can be. The risk, like anywhere, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't do anything PvP related, and the game is
No.
heavily PvP oriented. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you taught me how to craft. I know how to butcher. I know how to kill a bandit.
It's funny, like they pitch
A
the game
weak
in
bandit, mind
Haven.
you.
Yeah, a
Yeah, a
shitty version
weaker
of a bandit,
bandit, yeah,
even
or
a
a
shitty
weaker rat
zombie.
man.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
like
weaker everything when it comes to and it's funny because Haven is pitched like this game in Haven is pitched as a complex crafting game because it teaches you the basics of all the complex crafting systems and everything.
yeah.
And then like you get thrown to the wolves with the combat, which is what a lot of people play this game for is the P and combat. So there's like they don't teach you how to feint. Like I don't know. I didn't even know how to freaking push somebody until like a week and a half ago when somebody got stuck and I had to push them, you know. It doesn't teach you how to push someone. It doesn't teach you how to feint.
The crime
It teaches you how
system
to block.
is bad too in terms of how they teach you. Like I'm sure a lot of
Yeah,
players went, especially when they, well, even at launch, players were like, "Yeah, we're killing each other. This is great," and they'd have fun for like an hour killing people, and then they're forever out of town, and there's no like
no
great way
going
to
back.
explain that, and I do
Yeah,
agree. Like I'm very the players need to be informed. Like there should be some kind of in-game, like they have a website, like their help center, and it talks about like an FAQ kind of thing. Like some of
yeah,
that stuff should be in the game for
yeah,
people to read. Not that people want to read, and there's going to be people who are just like, fucking text, fuck that, and they're not going to look at it. But I do think it should be there, and so it's an interesting balance. I'm not
yeah.
going to claim I know the answer because I don't. But
Oh, with a game like this, I don't even know. Like this is such a unique game and experience that's never happened, you know? So it's very difficult. Like I feel like we're on the front line of the MMO sandbox universe, like, and what happens in the future, like this game could be revolutionary for the MMO sandbox genre if the execution of the development team works out the way that they want to. Similar to what WoW did, like World of Warcraft, the way that it introduced people to the MMO genre. Like this game could introduce people to the sandbox MMO genre in a way that's never been experienced before because it is so unique.
I I love the game. I love the potential of the game. That's why I've been playing for almost 2 years now. But from what you're saying, I feel like it's more likely this game will, instead of being revolutionary, it will be more like a this is what you don't do. Like when they go to implement, like not saying like full loot doesn't have its place in MMOs, it definitely does. Not that territory control doesn't have its place in MMO, because it definitely does. But it's gonna like the next game, whatever it's gonna be, is gonna look at more online and be like, okay, they tried to do this, but they fucked it up with this. They tried to do that, but this happened. You know what I mean? Like I don't
It'll be
think
a learning experience.
yeah, I don't really think this game's ever gonna hit that point where it was like, boom, Mortal Online 2, and it's gonna be all these YouTube videos like this game fucking is awesome, 100K players, like this game is, I don't know, man.
It'll
It's gonna be
depend.
a long, long time before we ever hit 10K players again. I feel like just even 10K players, and for an MMO, woo, buddy, that's rough numbers for an MMO. 10K players,
It's going to depend
man.
on their content creation and their the continents. It's all going to hinge on their continents.
Well,
Yeah, but the thing with the continents is Sarduka killed the population in MO1 because you split the player base even more over a bigger map. And they increased the map from MO1 to MO2 by 6 times, they said. It's like, why'd you do that? We didn't need
But
that. The smaller map
uh,
means more social interaction.
I definitely
yeah,
feel that they should definitely not bloat, but like add content to Mirrorland. There's a lot of spaces that look like they're kind of like placeholders for content. And it's absolutely right. Like, let's just say because they want to make sure that once they get a population boom, there's land mass and node distribution to like facilitate that, like with a consistent population, because obviously you have the concurrent players or whatever, and there's a rotation throughout the day.
yeah.
But you have roughly, I don't have the exact numbers, but let's say you have like 1,800 players playing kind of concurrently in most times. A lot of people are going to go to Sarduka, then you have like half, and so it's going to feel like almost like alt servers
Well, and
because
that'll depend. That's going to depend on if the player population can grow at a sustainable rate and then plateau and maintain. Like in MO1, it was almost like when they released Sarduka, it was too little, too late. Like they released Sarduka when the player base had already plummeted and fallen off a cliff, so concurrent player counts were super low. So that, like you said, it just divided an already tiny player base. But with where we're at in terms of 21st century gaming and how the marketing machine works now for video games, like it's much easier to market video games and promote them because really all you need is one viral YouTube video or one viral Reddit post, and your game can blow up overnight. It'll bring in the masses. Like one viral post on the gaming subreddit can cause your game to explode and have this resurgence of popularity. I mean, look at
But
DayZ and what it's gone through, or Rust. Look what Rust has gone through, and where they're at now versus 10 years ago. The development curve and the way that games are marketed now is completely different. And if Star Vault started marketing their game again, games will or players will start coming in. Like it's such a unique game, but if they can't get certain foundational things figured out, they're gonna have an MO1, like it's gonna happen. What happened to MO1? But it
well,
is
isn't it
different. Like marketing's different right now than it was 12 years ago when MO1 was being created. You know.
isn't the marketing thing kind of like a double-edged sword though?
it could be.
It
Like
can be, yeah, yeah, it absolutely can be. Like, for example, MO2's launch, they sold 110,000 copies for a game that had a server capacity at the time of launch of maybe 1,500 concurrent players, which then you ran into the queue issue and people being stuck in a queue for 24 hours. Thank
Uh,
God they had Haven instanced so players could still experience that. But yeah, yeah, the marketing, like MO2 right now is at a point where it's failing from its success because it was so successful at launch. It's failing right now because they couldn't handle the capacity of the players coming. Like I think they were expecting to sell like 10,000 copies and have maybe 1,500 concurrent players at any given time. But it blew up. Like you had Asmongold freaking play this game during beta, and boom, overnight this game became popular just because of one streamer. You know, like it's
But didn't
different.
he
Like
quit the game like not even after like a day though?
oh, he played for like 3 days, but that doesn't matter. That's 3 days of having 50,000 people watching the gameplay, and Asmongold saying, "Hey, this game has potential. Like this game could be something good." Or hell, even Jonah Vale or Pizza Guy or Jack, Tatsuya, like those, they all have consistently over 100 people watching them, so they're drawing in people. And even though they're smaller streamers, like they're selling copies of this game based on how they promote it, you know. Hell, even my stream, I average like 30 people right now. Like my shit's blown up. It's been kind of mind blowing over the last month. But people come into my stream and they're like, "Hey bro, should I buy this game?" And based on how I present the game and pitch the game, like I know for a fact 5 people have bought this game because of what I've said on my stream and the way that I've pitched the game, you know? So it's marketing's different now. It's completely different than it used to be. Um, so games can blow up very quickly, and they can resurge very quickly, and they can die very quickly, based on Reddit and social media posts, how toxic the community can get, or how positive they can be. You know, if the hopium and the copium is high, then the community will continue to grow. But if that toxicity takes over, I've seen it happen with Escape from Tarkov, several times actually, where like the subreddit, the community just gets ultra toxic and everybody just quits and nobody wants to play the game because everything's broken and toxic and shitty. And then they have a sweet patch and everybody's like, "Hell yeah, brother, wipe, let's do this," you know? So,
I think what right now, I mean, what's happening is that it's kind of in a lull, right? We had 2 months where they were really working on some foundational stuff. It wasn't
Sola.
quite working as they wanted, and like a lot of guilds, big and small, have been stockpiling for a while, and they just kind of have nothing to do with that stuff, and um people, because like, yeah, you could fight, you could fight and do stuff and drop kits and stuff, but hey, I got a bunch of other kits to go, and the sieging. And I think I agree with Puts in there that I don't think TC and sieging are like this like miracle drug that's going to make this game, you know, um blow up to the point where it's ridiculous. But I do think that it will give people a little bit more to do. Like the priests and the stable masters, the equerries. That's a small component that will have a little bit of movement, but again, it's more of like a minor band-aid, right? Um, but this
I
is my
think
opinion, man.
we're not seeing real sync in the game until we get sieging. So, um, first of all, like sieging is like both the in-game content and the reason that you have like such large sinks in the game. Like, let's say you take a man cannon. Let's say it costs 400 gold, and then you take that man cannon and you go siege down a stronghold. That stronghold was 2,500 gold, assuming it's a tier 1.
Hmm.
Not including material costs for either side of that. Like that's already, you're almost 3,000 gold
Yeah,
synced into just one siege on one itty bitty part of the map somewhere, and that's 3,000 gold that's never coming back to the game. Resources not coming back to the game. If they get loot from it, great. I don't usually loot's not the reason someone gets siege. It's more of a message or because they don't
yeah,
like them or whatever it
yeah,
is. Like usually, like sieging isn't profitable from like MO1 days. Like, I mean, when they used to drop like deeds and stuff, like people would just go around and siege everything and usually get a lot of deeds, but they ended up taking that away. But yes, usually sieging is more of like a message or like a
yeah. And I
to
think
get
that's cool.
PvP type thing. Yeah,
I think
I think
that's
that's
but
great
great. Yeah,
if it's used in with that intent. Like I'm a because there's people that could care less about the resource consumption. Like I've literally talked to griefers that will get their murder count to 5 and then they'll delete their character and re-roll the character just so for the sake of griefing. They don't care about resources. Like that's their gameplay style. It's crazy. Like some of the folks that I've encountered. But I'm hoping that the resource consumption is at a level for sieging that it's just not going to be worth it for people that like my biggest fear for sieging is that you're going to have groups of like 20 people that can farm resources very efficiently and get that 3,000 gold and just go wherever the hell they want, set up siege engines and wipe out people's communities that they've spent like a month creating without any motivation. Their only motivation is to destroy someone's community. And I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've witnessed it fishing.
Oh yeah.
Like and everybody, people at the graveyards witness it. Like people literally will play the game with the intent of just making other people's lives miserable. And it's weird to me. Like it blows my mind. Like the things I've learned in the last month from like people trying to grief and people coming and killing fishermen and like their motivations. It's been pretty eye opening for me. Um, like it's weird. Like people's
Yeah.
motivations are so fascinating, dude. The psychology behind it just blows my mind. Like people's motivations. Like they'll literally sit on their horse for I've had dudes sit on their horse for like 5 hours just staring at us fish, waiting for their opportunity, doing nothing. They'll just have YouTube up watching videos on YouTube, or they'll be
Yeah.
watching somebody's stream, and they'll sit there in game for 6 hours doing nothing but waiting to grief someone. It's the craziest thing, bro. It blows my mind. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Oh,
personally,
but
I don't. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, I kind of started the conversation and kind of got to the end. When it comes to like players that might be doing that, I think they're just bored because the game right now isn't facilitating proper PvP. And
Yeah, for
you
sure.
And
know,
some
there
people don't
are
care. They don't care about that. Like they
well,
literally just want to grieve
there
people.
is, but
Like that's
I
their
do
sole purpose in life. Crazy.
but it's I think most of it is because it's bored. It's boredom. You know,
Some
there's
of them, yeah. I would
there's
definitely.
guys in Fabrinum, which part of me thinks it's funny, but as a tamer, you know, it's a little discouraging. But there's guys in Fabrinum who come in and their sole purpose in life currently is to kill pets. But like that's kind of
Yeah.
like part of the sandbox, and a lot of that again, it comes from the fact that they want a PvP a bit more naturally, but the game hasn't made it easy because instead of adding more systems, Star Vault decided to like I'm not going to go as far as these take away systems, but they made adjustments and removals to facilitate something foundational without actually putting the nuts and bolts to kind of do that. And so there are in any game, any part of life or anything, you're gonna have the shitters, you're gonna have the
Yeah,
people
you're
who
gonna have the
take the
grievers. There it is.
pleasure of maybe getting a reaction out of you or whatever. But I do think a lot of that, even the guys who are acting um aggressive, griefy, trolly, it just comes from a place of boredom. They love the game, they love what it could be and what it is, but the game isn't allowing them to enjoy the content the way they
The
want
way they
to.
want to, as an
So they're
individual.
yeah,
Yeah.
so but that's my perspective. Sorry to
Yeah.
cut
No,
you
no,
off,
no.
Poopsin, after I took a little dash, but I wanted to chime in.
No, I was just gonna say like, kind of going back to like TC and stuff a bit, but um, like, would you guys like agree to this, like, from your own personal opinions, and if you don't really care, that's fine too. But um, like, I'm under the impression like maybe they should have never released castles until sieging was a thing. So like, launch went by, we're 5 months deep. Now they have like a fully fleshed out siege system, by the way. Not like first implementation, all right, we're throwing castles in the mix before we even really test this, sieging mechanic thing we have. No, like sieging has been out maybe a month already. People have lost their houses, strongholds, whatever, blah blah blah. Now we're gonna release castles now that we know sieging is actually working correctly. Do you think that should have maybe been the smarter move on their part rather than what we currently have, which is like, okay, well, people have castles, they rushed it, however they got it, whatever. Now they've been sitting on it for 5 months, have been building it up, upgrading it, whereas like if you had waited, you would have had a proper implemented siege system. So, like as soon as someone started building it, you could take it down if they couldn't defend it and control it. And that could have generated a lot of like good content and like epic moments for the game's history. Like, oh man, the first ever castle siege when, um I don't want to name any names. a fucking Eternal Guild tried to build the GK castle, and fucking the Squabble Guild fucking came and sieged their shit, you know, like whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like those I feel like we missed a lot of good opportunities there for like the history of the game, and like creating like these epic moments, you know. Um and even like the guilds rushing the castles like in the first week of launch when nobody could play, I think that probably could have killed off a lot of the player base too. Like a lot of guilds who came into the game fresh, who didn't play beta or whatever, like came into the game like expecting to like compete for these castles, who literally could not log into the game for like 24 hours plus, and then they hear like, oh, this guild has already built this castle, that was what the one we were aiming for, like couldn't even fucking log in, dude. I'm not playing this shit game, you know. That could have possibly killed off a large part of the player base,
If that's
knowing
their
how
motivation
competitive.
for playing,
Yeah, like yeah,
that,
so
but
I
that's
don't know.
shallow motivation for playing a game, like my
Is
opinion.
it?
Like,
Castles are in-game
uh,
content.
yeah, but I don't even like. What's the purpose? Like, what's the advantage of having a castle right now? Is there any advantage other than just having like the safety of the castle and
There will be, and that's the point. Now,
yeah, like right now there's not really. It's just a
there is some advantage. I mean,
just a
okay,
structure.
early, not too much. Because like it's the only way to have like guild storage, because like the guild chest. But again, when the game first came out, we didn't have furniture, stuff like that. Now, puts in, I'm gonna say for the most part what you said, I would say yes. I do think that um having the castles at launch was not a good idea, in my opinion, because I think you're right. Where when you have this, like, if they would have released TC and sieging and castles at the same time, or castles a little bit after, I think it would have been more exciting. Absolutely. As well as, you know, in terms of like a developer testing side of it, you know, we could have tested it all together, and not
Yeah.
incrementally, you know, like, oh, this is working with keeps, this isn't, that kind of thing. um, I absolutely agree. And as someone who basically, after the first week, it was about a week and a half or 2 weeks after the launch where I was hired as the community manager. That was, you were saying something regarding the like players being like, oh, I can't get into the game, and these guilds that got in kind of first, early bird, are AFK, uh staying in the game, not letting me in, and they have an advantage. And I completely agree where that would be very discouraging. Now, a game like Mortal Online, I can make the argument that like not being able to play for like a week generally, um uh, it was more than a week, but I'm just giving an example here. So like not being able to play the week, is it going to put you so behind that you should never play again? But at the same time, in a competitive game, I definitely understand that there is an advantage, and I also understand that, you know, it could be very discouraging. So I do agree with you. Um you know,
Well, I
but
mean, the login issues were like a week, 2 weeks, whatever.
yeah,
But the
it wasn't,
effects
yeah.
of that have gone months now. We still don't have sieging. Castles are still 100% safe. Sieging isn't even scheduled on the roadmap. It's like in development. It's like that could be 6 months from now, from
Mhm.
today. It could be six. Like who knows? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
where it's properly working can siege a castle.
yeah,
So
no, I
there's
get it.
definitely an advantage to having a castle right now, even if there's absolutely no benefits, because you have all the time in the world to upgrade your castle all the way to tier 3, which increases the health pool exponentially. It already has like 10 million HP at tier 1, which is a lot of fucking HP. So you're going to need a lot of man cannons, a lot of logistics, a lot of manpower, more time than anything else to siege this. And now you have the ability to upgrade it, upgrade the towers, whatever. And who knows what else we can upgrade by the time that sieging is in. Like maybe we have metal walls instead of just stone walls, you know, because in MO1 they had wood, stone, and metal, I believe, and you could upgrade the walls to make them even stronger. So we could very well have that before sieging is in. So there's absolutely a benefit to having gotten a castle in the early days, even if there is no tangible like benefit, like taxing like a town, or you know, generating revenue of any kind. Like you can just sit there and upgrade it and stockpile all your gear sets and materials, so when a siege happens, well, you now have 20 kits ready to go and the enemy has one because they don't have a storage nearby.
Mhm.
So absolutely there's a benefit.
Yeah. I definitely agree with the, you know, the sorry, the castles was just kind of like, why? You know, I definitely agree. I wasn't, um obviously conceptually I wasn't part of the team, and I'm not trying to distance myself from that decision, but as someone who, understood very early on that controlling areas, whether that's within game area or sorry, within game mechanics, socially, or just by pure numbers, like it's an important factor of the game. It would have been way more interesting with the castles coming in later, later to a point where you can fight for them and like squabble that way, right? Because I don't think
Squabble.
Squabble, yeah, the best guild, Squabble, taking
Yep.
out Eternals. Um, but because from my understanding too, I don't think very many conflicts happen during the rising of these keeps. All the guilds that could probably like oppose each other at the time were probably too busy getting their own keep. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
setting it up.
I'm sure there were some times where there was fighting and stuff, but like, yeah, I totally get it. It was rough.
As
And,
soon as Sieging's launched, it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get
Yeah,
real crazy. There's gonna be so much crazy content once
I
Sieging is implemented.
I hope so. I hope
Like
so.
I think overnight there's gonna be some
I think there was only
crazy.
one contested keep at launch. I think that was the um
Wasn't it
uh
Sunken Island?
fuck, which one was it? No, it was I think it was Content. No, was it Content's Castle? No, that was beta. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of beta because VII tried to take where Content is built now, Top Castle, and the Talos Alliance came and killed them, and then they ended up building on GK Castle. Yeah, I don't think there was any contested castles at launch, actually. That was beta, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
So
it was
imagine
basically like Gold Rush.
16
wanted
different
one.
potential content factories just not even being a thing. Like, we just erased that from ever possibly being a thing. One, because we had castles before sieging, and then two, people were building castles when people couldn't even log in. So those two factors were,
Mhm.
we just stripped ourselves of like amazing potential content, videos, whatever, history, essentially. Why are
Sorry,
you
someone's
flexing
making a.
your
Yeah, someone was talking about my red
Is
armor.
it his
Actually,
sweet
I
MO2?
wanted to address Arch Arcana. He's saying, or he or she is saying that like keeps were necessary for big guilds, but at launch we didn't have furniture. Like, what's the point? What was the point, right? Like, you can't put anything in it at that point, right? Furniture came, I don't know. Or wait, am I mixing up time? Did any kind of furniture come out pre-beta, like tables and stuff? No, that was post-launch, right? Am I-
Wait, why are we acting like furniture is some necessity? I'm missing. Am I missing
No,
something
no,
here?
no, no. So no, okay. So we were talking. We were kind of all mostly agreeing that uh, siege or sorry, keeps were not necessary at launch, right? And
Okay.
someone was making a counter argument saying, "Oh, well, we needed keeps to kind of have huge guilds have something to do and have space." But there was nothing to do in that space, as well as even if there was, because I can't quite remember when the furniture and the workbenches came out. Even if that's the case, you still can't you can't revive there at the time. You couldn't revive there so like I still think that it wasn't a great idea, and I just wanted to kind of address that comment. um but
Yeah, there was like there was some very minuscule benefits to owning a castle, aside from the fact of investing into the future.
yeah,
Um, but nothing is gonna, in my opinion, is gonna outweigh like not implementing it with sieging, because you didn't, like, none of the castles mean anything. On top of the
no,
fact that nobody could log in, so you had people AFKing in the game, essentially going uncontested, in a way.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. I feel for the player base, all like the vets, the new guys, everything. It's like that was I don't think it was a great idea. So,
I barely
but
played the whole first week of launch. Like, I was so
I don't
excited I was gonna stream it.
did
I
anyone.
sat in a queue for 8 hours.
Chilling in Haven.
I don't remember what I started playing. Maybe it was Daisy. I literally stopped playing the game. I didn't even try to play the game because
No,
I'm not gonna
sure.
waste my time sitting in a queue for 10 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, dude.
I wasn't gonna do it.
I would have like 36-hour queues, man. Like it was rough. It was
I
rough,
just
dude.
hung out in Haven for the first month of launch.
Yeah, and a lot of streamers were in. I remember Jonah was like exclusively in Haven, or maybe not. I could be wrong, but there was like
No,
a
he
lot of
was in
streamers in Haven.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
he had a multi accounts at Havens. I try to
Yeah,
pop
but yeah,
into everyone's
exactly.
streams, to get different perspectives and just kind of listen and see how they're absorbing content. But yeah, I remember there was a good 2 weeks where he was just smacking bandits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
smacking bandits on like 3 or 4 different accounts.
You know, I kind of
Getting
wish
his
I
postmated.
stayed in Haven originally because I could have like
Yeah,
as
well, you could have at least
as a
played.
mage. Yeah. But you know, I got in and I waited and I would just leave my computer on, you know, my poor power bill, but you know, it is what it is. Someone's asking me quickly, do I discuss the weekly stream with Henrik? I advise him that he should bring certain things up, but there's no like schedule. He doesn't give me like a rundown or anything like that. So I just want to answer that for Arc and PK. So I advise them, I would be like, oh yeah, maybe you should address the idea that this patch was a bit late and how that's going to affect. Like that was my advice to him. But no, that's his ball game, and I am glad that he does that. But I do sometimes be like, you should mention this today, uh, and that's kind of how it goes.
I'm
And so,
curious if you could tell your story. How did you start working for Starvolt?
well, back in the day, no, so there was a rumor in the grapevine that they were looking for some kind of community outlet. And I reached out to Henrik when I heard that in that first week of launch and stuff. And I said, hey, are you looking for this? I could send you a resume and cover letter, and I also said, if I were to do this, this is kind of my idea. Very, very clean. And he's like, okay, like, well, let's look into that. And I sent him that. And I don't know if other people applied. I think I heard someone else did, at least. And then he kind of was more open to the idea. And then we had some discussions of like what it should look like, yeah, should I stop playing? Should I play? What kind of things? And it just went from there. It's not like an amazing story per se. I applied for a job with my experience, and he felt it was acceptable. And it's I hope that I leave a good impact. And that's kind of my goal. My goal is to have the players have a good time and to leave a lasting impact. And there's some selfishness to that because obviously you want like a little legacy, a personal legacy. But I don't think of it like that. I just want to make sure that you know what I've done and how I've communicated has been a positive effect. And I hope that's the case. And when it comes to Henrik, yeah, I kind of just approached him after hearing that kind of rumor mill and looking online and stuff, and here we are.
Okay. I was just
Yeah,
curious because I don't
yeah,
know if you told the story
yeah.
before. Or...
No, and like I could understand like when I first started. Obviously, there's a multitude of things. The launch wasn't going great. There's a lot of things going on in the Discord. Um, who the fuck is Robmo? That was a big question, right? Like, who's this guy? Like, he's not part of a big guild. He's not someone who's made waves. My claim to fame at the time was my tamer sheet. So during late beta, I started to make like a taming data sheet to keep track of like pet points and max lures and stuff like that. I've been kind of picking at it lately, but of course I've been busy. But that was like my only claim to fame in the game, and that's not huge, right? Like, taming's a big thing, but it's not part of the conflict, I guess. So there was definitely a lot of resistance there, and I totally understand it. But I kind of came to Henrik. I was like, look, Henrik, like I'm not part of a big guild, and I don't want to be. So for one, me being part of the big guild, or not being part of the big guild, people can't come to me and like directly be like, oh, you're making changes to benefit this group or that group or whatever. Um, I'm pretty social. I like all aspects of the game. I like the sandbox. I like the PvE content. I enjoy PvPing. Even if I'm getting ganked, there's a thrill there. You know what I mean? And I want to engage it with it as well. And so that it just kind of all came together. And I can't say one way or not if I am the perfect choice because that's silly to think, but I do, whether people believe me or not, I do believe that I try to be as unbiased as I can, and I hope people can believe me when I say I separate my personal opinion with like the data I collect and obviously the dev's perspective. It is a balance, and I try to, when there's something that kind of comes from me, I try to say that this is from me, the human Robert. Yeah, that's my name, Robert. Who knew? And yeah, uh, but it's been an enjoyable process, even on the rougher of days. So
Yeah, where's domination? You're the taming guy. Why
yeah,
don't we have fucking
I,
domination?
yeah, I'm pissed. Trust me. When they launched domination in beta, I was ready. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get a Clothos Flinger. It's gonna be sick. And I tried all the spiders, and none of them worked. And then I heard the crabs worked, and I was like, ugh. And I don't
You
even
know,
think I
it's
tamed.
it was such like a cock tease when we launched the game. All of a sudden, there's this new NPC in Haven, and it's this Dominator trainer with this giant troll,
Yeah,
and we're all thinking like, "Oh fuck, we can dominate trolls now."
yeah,
No, you're fucked. You can't do anything. It's just
yeah.
like, why do they even do that?
Yeah, that patch they added the snow and jungle troll, I think. They added the baby minotaur. They added a couple more like spider types, like the nitra spider, like the different nitras and the different Clothos and stuff. And yeah, they were like it was gonna be sick, but yeah, ever since then, that's the bug that's happening with that. Like he's explained it a few times, but that's one of the reasons why panthers and I assume chickens can't be dominated or dominated, sorry, tamed, because it's affecting all new creatures since that point on. And I don't know why. Well, they kind of know why, and they're trying to wrap around it.
Fix the
Um,
code for it.
yeah. Trolls are one thing, like it's weird too. Even if domination was to work out of the box at that time, I don't know if trolls were going to be dominable because they're supposed to be like a mechanic with holding a chain.
Yeah,
And that wasn't
I heard.
ready. It's not ready, or like it's not. There's nothing in the game for it, to my knowledge. So maybe they would have just allowed it, and that would have been ridiculous and fun. But there is going to be that mechanic one day where you have to like hold the chain with the troll, and there's probably going to be like a radius. Like, but
There's a
again,
leash.
they
Yeah.
might change their mind. They might change their
Well,
mind.
there was a skill in MO1. I don't know 100% if it's actually in MO2 right now, but bestial influence was like how far away your pet could be, and you could
Yeah,
control
like
it and command it.
Yeah,
So
they still have that.
but
okay,
I mean, right now with Beast Influence 0, your aggro range for your pet is pretty big.
It's huge. Yeah,
Um,
it
no,
is
that's what I'm saying. Like
huge.
you're basically getting that for free right now. Like that's not in
Yep.
the game. Like you're not having to spend that investment to get the range that you currently have when you would. Same with I think Beast Mastery, where I think like all the pets still are using all their range of attacks for free, so you're not investing that. Um,
yeah,
I don't
it'll
know.
be
Taming's rough, man. That's a lot
yeah.
of points to
T-
sink
ta-
into taming.
taming.
Timing life's rough because of pathing. Just pet pathing is a
Well, it's
hard knock life.
I don't know. There's a balance. Like as a tamer, people think I'm like really biased. Like personally, when it comes to taming, I think taming's very strong.
Agreed.
It's extremely strong. At least having a pet, sorry, is very strong. And but there are problems that are bugs that make it kind of unfun or like kind of a nightmare for quality
Yeah.
of life. But there's also, I don't think like pets need to be buffed or debuffed. I think tamers need a couple fixes and like a tool or two, right?
Yep.
So like I've said this many times, and some people might be in here and be like, "Shut up, Rob," but like a point and go here would go a long way, because you send like a pet in and it starts getting swarmed, but as soon as you call it back for a follow, if you're in the back line, your pet kind of just sits in front of you. So if I could turn around and be like, just go back there, that would help me for positioning, because like
Yeah, go
it's a,
here command.
and I think
Yeah.
a lot of tamers, I think, use tames wrong in group fights. Now, in a coordinated group fight, if you're sending your pet in, the coordinated group's gonna be like, screw that bear, and he's gonna wreck his day. But maybe in some cases, like a mage tamer who's sitting back, doing heals and corrupts and occasional formation or like lightning strikes or whatever they're doing, um, having the pet with you to cover when someone kind of rushes your back line. I don't see that very often, and like
Yeah,
that's might be a better way to use that pet, you
see
know.
yep.
And
That
and
I
but a
agree.
lot of and then people go like, oh, taming is so oppressed because they're getting killed in town. It's like, well, that's the social aspect of the game, and I don't think balancing should, like, social cultures, I don't think should necessarily dictate a balance within reason. But, if pets are just getting murdered and murked in town, that you just gotta deal with that. Like, as someone who's lost, like, last week or a week and a half ago, I lost 6 bears in 2 days. It
Jesus
was
Christ.
Yeah.
rough. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think you might have even seen two of them on Jonah's stream. And of course you're a little sad, but I thought it was kind of funny. It's like whatever. It's
Yeah,
a
there's
game.
both sides of it. They need
Tamers
to.
tamers
My
need to
big.
understand. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the one big thing I wish pets had right now was a defendability. So if like
Oh
you have
yeah.
a bear, if you have a bear that starts getting attacked, it will automatically attack whoever's attacking it. Or if you start getting attacked, your bear will aggro whomever it is that's attacking you. Because right now they sit around like a dum dum, and you got to have. There's a pretty high skill ceiling with like managing your pet and getting them to actually aggro somebody versus come back to you. But like you were saying, Rob, I totally agree that tamers are utilized in the complete wrong way. Like the meta on tamers right now, totally wrong, totally bass backwards, which is funny because they're OP or they can
Orda
be.
does a good job with taming.
Who
Have
sorry?
Orda in the jungle. You guys
Orda?
ever met them?
No.
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
it's the most toxic shit I've ever seen in my life. Basically, they're like a 5. I don't know how big their guild is. I usually see like max 5 at a time. They usually roam between 3 and 5 players. Literally all the same build. They're all MAs with terror birds. And all they
Yes.
do is they shoot your horse, they sick the terror bird on you, and you get dismounted, and now you're fighting like 2-3 terror birds on foot. I don't care if you're a 3rd star with lifesteal. I've tried it. You're dead. Like if you're a
Yeah,
solo player, like it's the most like I don't know what the word is. It's like the best build to like dismount someone and like
yeah,
fuck up like solo players. Like there's no like you can't. It's really hard to 1vx though, and they use really good gear too. So I think they're running like steel horse armor, like steel like or like lighter armor because I don't know if they have heavy armor training in their build. I don't know if they can fit it, but they'll have
Mhm.
like steel horse armor. They're chasing you with MA, shooting your horse, and then they have a terror bird. Like it's so fucked. But they do a really good job with taming.
Yeah,
But
and
it made me think of them.
a lot of the things too is like I don't know who's right per se. I don't think I have the authority to say, but like a lot of people look at balance from like a 1v1 versus a group. And at least in my experience, Mortal Online it is balanced in a way of situational things, and a lot of people might forget that. Maybe some don't, some do. Like for example, like we're talking about taming. Like unless your tame is like a low level or like a wolf, I guess you could say like a regular wolf. But if
yeah.
unless your tame's like a low level, tamers are like absolutely OP 1v1s or even
Yep.
like 1v2s or something, depending on your pet. Like they
Yeah.
can be, right? At the same time, though, you get that foot fighter who sneaks up behind you and claps your head, assuming you're a mage tamer, mind you. You're dead anyways. Like it's the old argument with mounted archery. Everyone's like mounted archery is so OP. Now in a PVE farming situation, absolutely. But like you get a mounted archer in a forest, a tamer can deal with that. A foot fighter
And
might be able to
toxic.
deal with that, right? So it is different. I do agree though that 1v1 or I guess almost same amount of people with decent pets, it's really strong. I've mentioned I'm in a small guild called Peacekeepers, and unfortunately, some of our players haven't been playing. But if I ever left them for the lulls and the meme, I would literally make a pet only like guild just to
That's
experiment with.
happening.
That's
Yeah,
artisans,
That's
isn't it?
yeah.
there's also another one. One of the streamers, Kin's Trash. Him, and a couple other dudes are
It's
creating a.
trash.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Him and a few other people are creating. They want to make a tamer, dominate, necromancy only guild. Like if you're in the guild, that's what you do. That is all you do. It's a really cool concept.
I
But
always love the idea, like in beta, like thinking of like domination, just like a bunch of mages in the back line with like 1 to 2 bats each, because bats have a ranged attack. So your back line is just like shooting like fucking outburst thunderlash with the bats shooting like focusing a target. You all just like call it like, okay, see the third star on their front line, Jamie, everyone focus Jamie with the bats, and he's dead. Like they all throw out
Well,
an outburst of thunderlash with the bats, like
I
you
mean,
know.
I guess one
if they can
argument you
coordinate it.
can make is
Yeah.
like, what's the difference of, like, let's say there's no tamers involved in a fight. Okay. What's the difference of a coordinated group making called shots with their foot fighter with their steel that are like just like clapping Legolas wannabes and like mages and stuff. You know what I mean? So I mean, I the game seems to support, like it's all they always talk about skill and knowledge, and I think that's a big part of it. You know what I mean? Like, uh, we were talking before. I made a comment saying like, oh yeah, I've seen smaller groups wipe big groups because they stam management better and they have maybe a little bit better gear or they're just better at the game. And so again, I understand the idea of if you're like a PvP player and then, you have this 125 white bear and you're chasing the single mage and it's 1v1 and white bear go burr, I can get the frustration there. But, you know, pets are tools like a steel sword or chronite sword or whatever. And, you know, the disadvantage of tamers is simply that that tool needs to grow and you need the space for it to grow and you can just kill it right offhand. And so it I don't believe time investment is like a pure balance thing, but people might consider it that, so it's hard. I don't know what the answer is.
Tamers are going to need to get balanced in the future, though. They're going to need to balance.
Well,
Once you can put steel armor on your white bear, bro, that is going to be so OP. Like, could you imagine a white bear coming after it? Even if you have 3 people beating on it, if you got a white bear in full steel
Well,
armor,
they could add like stam
uh,
bars to pets, or they could just reduce the overall movement speed of the pet.
yeah,
While
and that's
you know what I
the
mean?
balance
yeah, for
movement
sure.
speed.
I
That'd
get it.
be
Like it sucks that like you can't out stam a pet chasing you. I totally that is pretty frustrating. I could definitely feel.
kind of. I don't know. Do you think like could you outrun? I mean, obviously it's a video game. We're in a fantasy world here. But real world scenario, there is not a human on the planet, and even in like the Lord of the Rings universe, I don't know that there is an elf or a dwarf or a human on in that realm that can outrun a full grown bear, regardless of what type of bear
How
it is. Like
fast are bears?
bears can run at like 40 miles an hour in real life. Like
Yeah,
they're
but bears
hella
also
fast.
have stamina. Like they have endurance,
But they
And it
can
is a game and you have to consider that as well. Like yes,
yeah,
they
exactly.
play the game tries to be realistic where it can and
Yeah.
gamey where it has to be. But, I definitely like I can understand like some of the best PvPers in the game, being like the fights I lose the most is when someone has
A
a
bear.
cobra chicken eating my shit,
A cobra
Yes.
chicken? What?
Cobra chicken.
terror birds.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
Never heard that
We
before. That's a new
we
one.
That's
call
good.
Canadians called geese cobra chickens up here too. So
Yeah,
like
they're
terror
evil,
chicken,
man. Geese are the
yeah.
Wait, you're
devil.
Canadian?
Yeah,
Dude,
Canadian
I hate
geese, man. So Canadians, what we do is we take all our anger and like put it into geese, and then we send them south in the winter.
that
So
makes
enjoy.
so much sense. Dude,
Yeah,
I hate geese. I had some real bad experiences when I was a kid with geese and roosters. Man. Those things are
yeah,
I don't like birds though. Birds freak me. Anyway, but
yeah. No, it is what it is. I try. A lot of people are like, Rob, you're a tamer, so you're trying to make taming OP, and I actually kind of fight sort of against it. Like I know how strong my build is. It just maybe I just like being the.
situational.
It is very. Oh,
It's
most
very
of the game is
situational.
situational. Like the foot fighter is kind of like that center mass that kind of like can deliver almost on all fronts. But
Yeah.
obviously, there's situations that they can't deal with, and
Yeah.
it's and then it just kind of, at least that's how I see it. Whether that's truth or, Robmo, you don't know shit. That's
No, I
anyone's
agree with you,
opinion.
man. That's one of the beautiful things about this game in terms of the way that they have the combat structured is that there is a direct counter for every. Like no matter what build there is no build in this game that I've seen that can 1v1 or 1vx and just dominate. There's so much skill involved with it
I
that
don't know. I think a foot fighter can
there's always
pretty
a
much
counter.
1v1 anything.
Not a tamer. Tamers will wreck a
Yeah, you
foot
can.
fighter.
Yeah, they
I've killed
could.
so many tamers as a foot
Yeah,
fighter.
now it depends on the situation. If like, for
Yeah, that's
example,
the thing. Situation.
if you're sitting in an arena, okay, and you have, a foot fighter and then like a mage tamer, but the mage tamer has like a terror bird or like, let's say, a high level bear, there's a good chance that if the mage is smart, he'll win most of the fights. At
Yep.
least I would assume so. But all it
Agreed.
takes is the mage being dumb, and the currently, if you kill the mage, the animal just sits there, right? So,
Yep.
um, but yeah, I would agree that Foot Fighter's kind of like, it's a really well-rounded, and I think it's supposed to be that way. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
they do a really good job with balancing it, I feel like. And if you make the choice to be a mage tamer, like you're biting that bullet, like, hey, I'm gonna
Mhm.
get three whacked in the face if they hit me. But if I
I don't
can
know.
stay away from them and my bear can stay on them, my 80 plus level bear can stay on them, and they don't address that bear's gonna eat them. Unless they can get to me and hit me in the face and kill me,
Mhm.
you know? And if they make the conscious decision to stop and fight my bear, I just throw some lesser heals or greater heals on that bear, and that bear will just keep fighting and fighting, and then that foot fighter's got to make the conscious decision. Okay, do I try and kill this bear through heals, or do I turn and try and kill that tamer? Or did that tamer get close enough for me to kill them? Like that's like there's a lot of like critical thinking I feel as a tamer mage, you got to do a lot of critical thinking on when to engage, when to not engage, so on and so forth. It's very unique. I really like my build, but I am very squishy. I'm a goddamn marshmallow.
I used to run like a skinny mage build in like beta days. I had like fucking like 140, 150 HP or something. And all I do, like my main goal was just running into enemy backlines and like group fights and just corrupt spamming like all mages. Like
Yeah.
it was such a fun build because like I don't know how much movement speed I had, like 447 or 450 maybe even. I'm not sure. It was like
In
literally like the
combat,
highest actually could get. In combat, in combat.
in
And I
combat,
didn't even
yeah.
have like a shield or a weapon at the time, so I just run around in combat and just casting.
Dude.
It was so much fun to play, but that was
Yeah,
so
dude,
fucking
that's
squishy.
hilarious. Yeah, you're super squishy, but you can run away from everything.
Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
long as they can't keep up with you, as long as you don't have an Alvar and Dex fighter chasing you down, like you're gonna get away from everything. Unless
No, even
obviously
Alfred Dex Fighter I could get
you're
away from because I had
you
like
could. Wow, damn, dude.
three more movement speed or something. Like I could outrun
So
them
you-
if I didn't let them get on top of me. I was good.
See that right there? That's the beauty. That is the beauty of this game right there. What you just described as being a Dex mage and going in and having that specific play style of getting in the back lines, corrupting, getting the hell out, and then moving back in. Or really any build. Like every build has such a unique feature that makes it powerful in some way or gives it a huge disadvantage in another way.
Okay, let's talk Thursar mages. Let's go.
Is that a thing?
Thirst Heart Mages. Oh my
What?
god. Thirst Heart Mages could be something because I don't know how lifesteal works, but imagine popping lifesteal and then using
And
death hands from necromancy because death hands has its own built-in lifesteal. So
Yeah.
stacking those two things together could be interesting.
I would
fulminate paired
assume
with a
if
flame strike, how much health would you get back?
Wait, say again what?
If you popped your does lifesteal work on spells? Like if you pop your lifesteal, hit somebody with a fulminate, or hit somebody with a fulminate, pop your lifesteal, and then hit them with a flame strike. How much health would you get from that fulminate explosion paired with the flame
I don't
strike?
know. Nobody plays fucking Thirst Heart Mages, so
Yeah,
very.
it's
This
not
has to
only
be
the
like one of the most
people
untested things in the game, probably. But
does it all. You just make a Thursar mage and see how that works out.
it's someone said melee only, so yeah, that's unfortunate.
someone just said I'm 21. Thank you. I appreciate
Damn.
that.
Rob,
I mean,
dude,
you
you have
look
to
mid.
times two. He's 42.
Yeah, I'm
I'd
I'm
say mid
actually
20s,
80.
bro.
You know.
You're an elf. He's an elf or a
Yeah.
vampire.
Yeah, no, that's no. I've heard people doing Thursar mages, and I think there's probably ways it could work. But yeah, necromancy will probably open that a bit. And like, I wouldn't recommend people go full mage. Maybe you have like a couple points for like corrupt and purify or something currently. But even then, it's like why? They don't have any clades to assist it. If someone pulls off the Thursar mage, come necromancy or something, I want to meet them. Come talk to Robmo.
Yeah, I
wanna-
want to see that too. Is that plus? I mean, are they ever gonna fix Thursar's skin where you can actually craft stuff with
Yeah,
Thursar hide?
I talked to Harrius about this actually, and he
And are they gonna
confirmed
change? My other big question is, are they gonna change the color between Alvarin skin and human skin? Because right
there is
now
a
they're
difference
gray.
though. I
No,
think
they're the
there's a
same
slight
tone.
difference. Really?
Is yeah. When I made when I made horse bags, they looked exact. They were the same tone, the same color tone.
Okay. Well, I thought
I was
I
super
thought they were
bummed.
slightly different.
And
But
then I
no,
made Ogre,
Thurstar.
and I was like, "This is sick. That looks like some Adobe
I like that this is
bag."
important enough for you guys to even like breathe life into it at all. Like this just such
Thurstar
a
skin?
non fucking factor thing for me that I wouldn't even like
Never, man.
waste breath on this topic. I mean, you guys are cool as all. I just
You don't want to wear Thurstar
our
skin? Come
Yeah,
on,
priorities
man.
are
man.
just not in the same place at all.
No. Oh, we're just talking, I don't think Thurstar skin's the
I mean, but you
priority,
guys have
but
like literally tested this. Like you've tested it so much. You're like the fucking colors the same.
Yeah, man.
Robmo, god
I'm a
damn it.
bag
yeah.
crafter, bro. I'm a
Like
bag and horse armor crafter. So you got to test the materials
No,
and see what
not
they look
only
like.
that, but like it's as terrible as it sound. Depending on the kit, human skin is kind of drippy. Like it could look good.
It looks
oh my
So
sick.
god,
Have you
dude.
seen full? Yeah, no, no, no. Get full human ranger armor set with horse with either light horse armor, medium horse armor, and then small horse bags. It is bougie is all get up.
yeah,
It looks so damn good. It looks sick. Same with Ogmer. Ogmer looks really dope too.
yeah, it's yeah,
Oh my
It's
god!
real
So it
bougie.
just said full human ranger sick town set. You guys wear specific sets to walk around town in?
Dude,
yeah,
Fucking
Toxay, bro.
role players,
Toxay.
dude.
yeah,
Come on, bro. Toxay is like the boot.
Oh
Like
my
if I
gosh.
meet people, if I just randomly encounter people in Toxay and their horse isn't looking bougie, like that's a big deal for me. Like I literally
I won't
carry
talk to
horse
that
bags.
person.
I no, I literally carry around horse bags and bear
Oh my
bags
god,
on me
dude.
just so I can give people bags when I encounter them. Like
Tox High
I
represent new RP town.
yeah,
Oh, then that's what I love about Toxay is that a lot of people come there like on vacation from the wars and the conflict from the west and the north and like it's Toxay has literally turned into like a vacation town where regardless of guild, regardless of politics or affiliation or regardless of your reputation in the rest of Nave, like if you come to Toxay and you're just chilling and fishing, like nobody has issues with it. Like I've literally fished I think I've fished with somebody from like every major guild at this point, including like major RPK guilds. Like people just coming and chilling in town to fish, and it's freaking amazing.
yeah.
And some of the role plays are like people are good at role playing. It
I don't
blows
know.
my
I don't know what they call it in Mortal, but like if you've heard the term fashion souls in like the Dark Souls games, it's all about that
mind.
look, that drip,
Yeah, that
I'll like
bougie.
I don't have gear fear, so like I'll run around with like blood silk and stuff occasionally. But yeah, no, it's always fun kind of looking cool and not being like some Malarium set, You see all the Malarium sets all the time, but
Yeah,
then you then
the
you see some
meta.
guy in like a purple suit with the cane, and you're like, yeah, that guy's
Hell
cool,
yeah,
Like,
brother. Yeah, yeah, dude, it's sick, man.
but
Yeah, and
that's
that's
but this brings kind of the fact of like, you know, players are kind of creating their own content because we have entered a lull of content and people are sitting on their resources,
oh
right?
yeah.
So
I
people
give
are trying to
quests out.
create, yeah,
I give
yeah, that's right.
player quests every day. I gave
Mhm.
one. So I gave a quest the other day to a dude. So I gave him 1,500 kelp dragon corpse. That was to initiate the quest, and his quest was to go to jungle camp and acquire 10 strong line, 10 hooks, 10 50 hooks, 10 100 hooks, and bring them back to me in Toxay within 4 hours. And if he brought it back within 4 hours, I'd give him an additional 1,500 kelp dragon on top, so a total of 3,000 kelp dragon. He didn't succeed in the 4 hour timeline. He didn't succeed in that, but he still filled and completed the quest. It was pretty amazing.
So then you
It's
killed him?
No, dude. No, I actually gave him. I gave him 500 extra kelp dragon because he actually died once. He got killed once and lost all the hooks and everything, so he actually had to double back and go back to jungle camp and get everything again, and then complete the quest.
You know, it's cool though if he brought it back to you and then you killed him and set up an ambush. It's cool that that can be done.
Yeah,
Can we
but
not
see,
agree?
uh, yeah, I mean that is really dope. And I've actually talked about people that are RPKs and like have a role play for player killing. Like they play like a psychopath in game. Like Tatsuya, for example. Tatsuya, if it freaking moves, that man is gonna freaking kill it. He don't give a shit if it's a new player, if it's a cow, if it's a springbar. That dude's gonna kill anything that moves. But it would be cool if somebody had a role play where they were like a psychopath or a sociopath where they like come into Toxay and they befriend fishermen and then they lure the fishermen out somewhere like Rob was saying earlier where no town should be 100% safe. Like there should be slums in each town, but have this person that like schmoozed you lure you into this back alley and then rob you or murder you. And like that's his role. I'd be so good with that. That would be dope.
Yeah, when dueling came out, people were luring players out of town to duel them and to steal their stuff. And
And loot
people would
them. Yeah.
people would come to me and be like, "Man, this is so dumb. Why is that intended?" And I would tell them, I'd be like, "They played you. Like, what am
Yeah,
I
you
like?
got
What?
owned. You
Like
got owned.
you? They played you. You know what I
Or
mean? Like
people
that's like inciting in a guild, right? Like that is not against the rules of
yeah.
Mortal Online. Like it's not an exploit or anything. It's literally just like if you gain the trust of a guild and then, you know, steal stuff from them and whatever, that's all part of the politics of the game, and that's what makes this game really interesting to me. Uh I can understand if like I could definitely understand if you losing your entire guild's worth of like progress is devastating, and I definitely feel for you on like a potential personal level, but that is part of the game. And
Yeah,
you just
Faded Steel says EVE Online rules. EVE
yeah,
Online rules.
yeah.
Which is true. Like people have spent wasn't there some dude that spent like 5,000 real world dollars on a ship in EVE Online and then his guild like betrayed him and destroyed it?
There's a lot of stories like that with Eve,
Yeah.
and like Mortal Online has like the entry level to that kind of thing.
Yep.
Like obviously Eve has like 10 or 15 years of like history to it,
Yeah.
but that's one of the reasons why I love Mortal Online, and I've had some great encounters and situations that's kind of happened in this game already that's comparable. Um,
Mhm.
if you don't mind me, puts in, do you have any other questions you want to go through? I could. I was just gonna tell like a sandbox story, but
Oh, what? Like people getting screwed over in games?
no, not necessarily. Just in general, because we're
Just
kind of
fun
taking over the
sandbox
conversation
stories.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mind. You guys just do your thing,
Cuz
All right.
man.
interactions are dope in games like this.
So
I've had some
this
of the dopest.
this I've told this story on my stream once before. So if you've seen it and it's a repeat, I'm sorry, but this is really like close to my heart, I guess you could say. So Star Wars Galaxies. I was 14, 15 when I got a job in the summer working for drywall. I bought my PC, bought the little Radeon card, which is basically just a little slot, and I got Star Wars Galaxies. And so Star Wars Galaxies was a, you know, open world PvP. I don't think it was full loot by any means, but it was a sandbox game. And so in the game, a lot of people start on Tatooine, but like you could, there was the Empire and there's the Rebels, if you're familiar with Star Wars, and like you can kind of like take over certain towns with the faction. And so there's this town called Anchorhead, which was a rebellion town. And I think at the time, most of the Tatooine was taken over by the Empire. And I had a house close by, but I remember like 20 bounty hunters that were im- Imperial faction came in, killed all the guards, spawn camping kids. It was nuts. We were all like running away, and like I was pretty newbie and like obviously 14, 15 years old, so I didn't know shit. But they were kept on killing us, and you know, it was a bad time. But eventually I escaped and I got on top of a roof. And so in Star Wars Galaxies, to travel to other planets or other like spaceports, there would be this like periodic like shuttle that would come down, and then you interact with it, and then that would allow you to, you know, leave. and then it would go and whatever. Now I remember the bounty hunters had just like wiped the city, right? And the shuttle comes down, right, for its cycle, and then two dudes in like robes come out of it. And they like, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Right. I'm like, why are they approaching this like gang of like bounty hunters? So the bounty hunters kind of knew what's up and I didn't. And so they were like surrounding these robed figures. And two of them like went forward, and I think I was too far to see the chat, but then these two robe guys pull out lightsabers and literally slaughtered everyone. It was the coolest, like my little 14-year-old
Amazing.
brain was mind blown.
That's
Right?
so good.
Killed like throwing lightsabers, doing force speed, and like I think they killed all of them. And then they like went back in the shuttle and left. I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? And so I told this story, and like Jedi in that game at the time were kind of like semi-god characters. They were stronger, and bounty hunters would like track them, and that's what the bounty hunter system in Mortal Online 2 that's coming is inspired by. But I told this story on my stream or somewhere, and I got a message from a guy on Discord recently, and he was like, my two of my guildmates were those two guys. And that was like 15 years ago, and that made me love the sandbox game. And like I've had similar situations in this game where just the dynamic of people, how they interact with each other and how they talk with each other um has been pretty fun. Like right now there's a it's a little bit of a bug, but in Fabernum I've just been informed that there's the holy pig tree, and the people of Faberdom worship this tree that spawns pigs on top of it, and it's been requested that it doesn't get fixed. So I went to
What the
Henrik and I'm
fuck?
like, don't. Yeah, I went to Henrik and I was like, can we not fix this tree? And the developers are even like, if we fix it, we might put a statue there for them. So like stuff like that, like just like silly things like that. Um, and that kind of it's just that's what that Jedi story. It's what Mortal is and can be, and I really hope to. I hope in 10 years, 15 years, there's some 16-year-old kid now. When they're playing the next big sandbox game 15 years from now, they're like, I remember that time in Mortal Online 2. And that's why I love sandboxes. And I think that's kind of what I hope for.
Yeah, I mean, I like those stories as well. I that's why
Mhm.
I actually like creating content, like making YouTube videos and stuff. It's not so much for like the clout or like the reputation. It's more so like because like I played like Albion 9 back in its like alpha beta days, and that's kind of like the like my first times where I actually started making like videos and stuff like that. And like I love going back and like watching those because it gives me like such nostalgia to like go back and like see these videos, and it reminds me of like all the shit I used to do back in those days. So like I really actually just make videos more for myself than anybody, I think, because like I know like I'm gonna be like 5 years from now, like wherever Mortal is, and if I'm playing at a time, I can go back and watch these videos of how we used to play and stuff like that. Um, and I really like doing that. Even now, like watching videos back in the beta, it feels like so long ago.
Mhm.
Uh, you
Yeah.
know, so yeah, I don't know,
I
it's cool, man.
Mortal Online 2 could crash and burn in a few months and go really poorly, and I think I will still
Whoa,
consider
you're an
Mortal.
employee. I don't think you should say.
No, I'm giving an example. If it did,
Oh no.
I
Okay.
could come like a few years from now, I could come back and still look at Mortal Online as a really positive experience, at least
Yeah,
in
no, me
terms of
too.
gameplay and
Me too.
interaction and social. Obviously that's not going to happen because I'm going to do my best to ensure that
XYZ.
things, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, if in
Oh
the
shit.
alternate timeline where Mortal Online 2 becomes unsuccessful, I do. I Moral Online is one of my favorite games ever made, and just like it's a it's a great experience, and I hope I truly feel it will be successful to an acceptable degree, and I do hope other companies look at it and be like, there is something here, you know.
Yeah, I see this as being a model for other follow in the future.
Hmm.
Just for the genre in general, because
Hmm.
it's been. I feel like the more so the MMO side rather than the sandbox side, but the MMO side of the gaming industry, it's been kind of stagnant for the last really since WoW was launched. Like WoW became the cookie cutter mold that everybody wanted to
Mhm.
follow and be like. And
Very little
nothing is
innovation. Yeah.
yeah, like there's been no innovation since WoW came out. And like even WoW is at a point now where it's literally just recycling content. Like it's just recycling what it did in its last update, or it's trying to find something new that's spicy, but it just turns everybody off. In this game, really, it does have the potential to, like I said earlier, it has the potential to revolutionize sandbox MMO genre and like
I-
really create a model that people follow.
what came out first? Was it WoW or Eve Online?
Eve. Pretty.
Yeah,
No,
Eve.
wait. Oh, sorry, Eve. I was thinking EverQuest.
No, it was WoW.
It was
I
WoW.
think,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
it
so.
was
Because
WoW
I would
because
say
WoW
like
was like,
Eve has like made a huge impact in like the full loot, like more hardcore MMO aspect, and WoW is kind of more the the like cookie cutter,
casual.
kind of like more casual,
Mhm.
friendly, like
Well,
just jump into it with your family, friends, whatever
yeah.
type.
Well, WoW
Or
also
no,
what?
Eve came out first. Eve came out before
Oh,
WoW.
Did it?
Yeah,
interesting.
Oh, okay.
its
Okay.
launch date was 2003. Was its
Oh,
Holy
initial
fuck!
release.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years.
Well,
Holy shit!
the thing too with WoW, like I haven't played WoW since Wrath of the Lich King. And now, WoW also had open world PvP though, and it had some more, I wouldn't call them sandbox, but it had a little bit more flexibility compared to the linear natures of like a lot of MMOs now. And like WoW,
Mhm.
I feel like is chasing like it's weird. WoW's in a position right now where it's chasing the success and models of the MMOs that are originally sort of copied WoW and are just doing it better. Like regardless of what you think of theme parks, like when I look at like almost perfect, really great theme park MMO, I look at Final Fantasy 14.
Hell
Like
yeah,
I
brother.
I
Yeah.
think it's a fun game, but it's not for everyone, right? But like in terms of like that is the evolution of like World of Warcraft for better or for worse, you know?
Yeah.
But that model, no one wants to like innovate that much. The only innovation I would say in most MMOs has been like the ease of access of content. You know, you got like the instances, you got the like the pickup groups for the raids and stuff. Like it was never like that. And so all because of a lot of games chase that because of convenience, because not everyone can life an MMO anymore. I mean, some people can. Like we have. I would say we have probably some lifers in Mortal Online, but not everyone can do it. So, having be like, I want to do a dungeon today. Boom, pop, it's done, and that appeals to people. And I don't
Mhm.
think there's anything wrong with that. But that kind of stuff doesn't fit in the sandbox nature, and eh, there's
Not
probably reasons for it.
entirely.
Yeah.
It does in some ways. It does with something. Like fishing, for example. Like if you're super into fishing, you can log on and accomplish a goal, especially now. You can log on, like let's say I want to catch a kelp dragon, which is like one of the more rare fish. You can log in and hopefully catch one in a 3 hour period. Granted, it's not guaranteed, but you have that chance. So you can't, there's still that content within MO2 to do. Or even running a dungeon, I feel it could be linear.
Mhm,
But it's much more open because of that sandbox component and that sandbox variable being added.
mhm.
So it just makes it more difficult to do that.
Yeah.
Has that layer of challenge. But
Um,
something I feel Final Fantasy 14 did right was their growth model. The way that they grew, they've grown sustainably over the last like 10 or so years. Like they didn't blow up overnight. Like their growth model is exactly what MO2's growth model needs to look like. It needs to be sustained over an extended period of time. It can't just be a snap and they can't just blow up. It won't be able to. But anyway, I'm
so
sorry I cut you off there.
someone's asking about cooking. If do you know if there's any like more advanced components coming to it in the future? And also, I know people can't name their food too.
Yeah, I mean, I know like naming of like potions and food is going to be something that comes. I don't really know this test. I haven't heard any whispers of like redoing the whole cooking system or anything like that. Because like I there are apparently there are combinations that are crazy, but I think like ease, there's just some basic food that are it's pretty easy to make and like it
Mhm.
works for what you need it to do, and so that's taking it over. It's like it's kind of like making I'm trying to think, like, malarium suits versus steel. They're like, steel is great and a lot of people do use it and go out with it, but like a malarium suit is a pretty fast and easy thing to do. It's kind of the same
It'll
with
be
food.
adequate.
There's been a lot of calls for, I don't know if it's a rework or like a readjustment for food. Apparently a council of cooks came to me not too long ago, and they were talking to me about that. And so uh, I just don't know of
Yeah.
any plans. I'm mumbly now, but yeah.
Okay.
I
But not to
I
cut you short, but I might have to go soon. I have a
Oh yeah,
weekend.
you're.
Uh, the good old parents are coming. You know it is. But
hell yeah.
Um.
I
Are you gonna stream Squirrely? Because I can raid you if you want. If you want to turn on your
Yeah,
stream.
yeah. I was gonna be going live here in a few minutes for sure as soon as we were done.
Mhm.
Um,
No, but I definitely appreciate being invited here. I wanted to do it earlier. There was just some things, and I won't say politics, but just some things that came up. And invite me anytime. If I'm available, I'd love to come talk. It's
Yeah.
just, and having different perspectives. Like me and Squirrely talked a little bit this week. We met this week more
mhm.
intimately at Talkside. He taught me fishing and stuff, and so I didn't even know he was coming today. So that was really cool. And but I'd love to talk with other perspectives: PvP, PvE, RP. I think the RP
Mhm.
component, even the light RP, is kind of fun. Like Odin Seed, they don't. I don't. Some of them might, but I don't think they claim to be the best players. But like, as an example, their RP is a lot
Top
of people are
notch.
winning, they're winning over, even if it's not something they do like super heavily. But if you
Yeah.
hear if you hear heathens or you hear brother over VoIP, it's probably Odin Seed.
Uh,
But
somebody was saying that Odin Seed they're not allowed to speak unless they start their sentence with brother and end it with brother.
I
Otherwise,
Oh
like
my
that
god.
that was a
it
requirement.
feels
It
like
was
that
hilarious.
sometimes.
Uh, um,
Yeah.
and Putson, regarding cooking, I've heard rumor that in the future they're gonna implement, because in MO1 I guess they had like a gourmet food and sophistication system for cooking. I've heard that they're gonna have something similar in the future, where there will
Well,
be
I
like
mean that's yeah,
gourmet
that'd be
foods and
good too. Yeah.
sophistication foods. But
I
that's
think they
just
could do a
me
lot
just
more with it.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
yeah, they could definitely do a lot with it.
when I come back, I'll kind of ask the question about cooking and like what the future is, because like, is it a problem where people are just not engaging with it because there's simpler foods to make that kind of do pretty good,
Same
or is it a
thing.
mechanic of um like it's actually just like busted or it's not working as intended? So I will look into that and see what the devs say, because it's come up a lot.
There's
But
some really hella good cooks out in the
yeah.
They just don't. They're waiting to be able to name their dishes. I think a lot of them,
Mhm.
from what I've
Okay,
heard, they want to be able to name their dishes so they're not giving their recipes away.
that
Because
too.
cooking and alchemy, it actually blows my mind how secretive they've been able to keep the recipes for cooking and alchemy in this game with technology in the forums and the Discord, just the access we have now to information, it blows my mind how secretive they've been able to maintain cooking. And I think a lot of people aren't selling their stuff because they can't name. They don't want to give recipes.
Well, I mean, same thing with fishing too. Fishing's pretty secretive.
Yeah,
That's
fishing.
exactly.
I was blown away that fishing was so secretive, and I guess I pissed a bunch of people off because I'm so open with sharing my information for fishing.
Yeah, fuck
I
those
guess I
other
made a
guys though. Fuck
I
'em.
guess I made a bunch of people really upset with that. But like the way I look at it is fishing is a resource gathering skill. Like you need to gather the resources in order to utilize and do alchemy cooking. So if we can't catch all the fish, we're never going to discover all the alchemy recipes or the cooking recipes.
For sure.
So I feel having access to the gathering material skills and professions and being able to catch all the fish, because not everybody has their life to commit to playing a video game, catching all the fish and figuring formulas. But people want to play for 15, 30 an hour. They want to play for that time and still be able to catch a kelp dragon or be able to catch ventriosis or something that provides a resource that's very good in some
Mhm.
capacity. So it's really, yeah, it's pretty amazing. But I apologize if I pissed anybody off.
Oh, fuck
Well,
'em.
they'll stay. Yeah, it's politics. Maybe you'll get chased forever. But boys,
But keep
ladies in the
cooking, and
audience,
I'll come.
I gotta head out.
Sweet dude.
Thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it. I will. I do love the idea of the podcast, and I do try to pop in when you guys you are up just to kind of listen. So I hope to return.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you
Very
coming.
welcome.
Thank you
No
as well,
problem.
Squirrely. We'll go ahead and shut
Oh
it
yeah,
down.
dude.
Squirrely, boot up your
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah, I
See you
just
guys.
started it up. So thank you, dude. Thank you so much for inviting me, man. It really means a lot to me. Just
Yeah.
being a part of the community. How amazing.
Yeah, I was really glad to grab you and Robmo. I thought you guys kind of had like similar like play styles and stuff, so I wanted to get you guys together. I try and match people who have like similar interests and stuff. So
Dude, I want to talk with Jack. You got to get Jack. Like Jack and I have like this feud where like he hates me. I don't really hate him. I
wait,
respect
Jack
his
who?
playstyle.
Is he a streamer?
Jack, yeah, streamer Jack, the Australian guy. He Tatsuya in game. The guy,
Oh,
the ruthless
Tatsuya. Oh,
murderer.
okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
You got to get Tatsuya on here. It'd be great to chat with him. Like I
All
love
right,
his playstyle. I just
I'm
don't
gonna
like
try
the
and get him
abusive stuff.
soon. He's just Aussie, so it's like 3 a.m. or more for him right now.
It's super
So
late for him. He's
yeah.
probably ending his stream here pretty.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's super in. He's the PvP side of things.
Yeah,
but
I was trying to get him and Nightmare together. I didn't realize you
Okay.
guys had like a thing, but I'll try and get
Oh,
Tatsuya,
yeah,
and if he comes on, I'll try and get you as well. You know, if you're free.
Oh yeah, dude, I'd love to hang out and chat with them and just get the PvP versus, because I'm a pacifist in game, so like getting the PvP versus pacifist mindset will be
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really interesting.
That's someone said in chat they liked our dynamic because I'm an RPK player and you're not, so they were like we're pretty much opposites because like you were talking about that quest story and then you're like, oh well, you didn't really do it, and at the time I'm like, did you kill him? You're like, no. Like, no, I didn't kill him.
I don't kill people. I don't even kill horses in game, dude. I won't kill a horse in game. Dude, it took me forever to get my Equianai lore up. It was a pain in the ass because I don't kill horses. Anyway, dude. Yeah, dude, thanks for having me on here, man. And anytime, man, I'm free most weekends. I mean, I usually play disc golf Saturday morning, but yeah, dude.
Perfect.
Time, bro.
Perfect. I love it. All right, I'll definitely invite you back. If I get Tatsuya, I'll reach out to you, let you know like when he can come, and then you can, if you could work it out, that'd be great. Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right, have a good one. I'll send you the raid in just a minute. Yep.
Cool, man. Have a great weekend, dude.
See ya. Alrighty, boys. We did it. Another successful podcast here by Putson, myself. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, guys, I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna send a raid over his way. I did want to kind of just run through the follows. Everyone who followed. Sarex, thank you for the follow. Vogel, thank you. Junkai, thank you. Dark Tuber Druid, thank you. Pintrez, Captain Redfish, what Nice Like Rice, like that name. Angel, Windorn, Morton's Ambitions. Well, I'm sorry if I just butchered that. The Owlcast, Stoned, Bud Ross, and finally Faded Steel. Thank you all for the follows. Thank you for the support. I'm really trying to do these podcasts like every week if I can. It might be a bi-weekly thing because it's kind of hard to find people all the time, and it's a lot of work, and people's schedules just don't match up sometimes, or like they can and then they can't last minute type stuff. But I will try and do the podcast as often as possible for you guys, if not weekly, bi-weekly. And I always try and bring on new people, and I try and match personalities as best I can. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna try and get another one next weekend. We'll see how that goes. And I always post on the forums. Actually, if I can find the forum post real quick, I'll post it for you guys. I always try and post all my stuff on the Mortal Portal podcast forum. Let me see if I can pull that. You just tuned into the latest channel on Twitch. Oh yeah, here we go, right here. I got it right here for you boys. So if you guys ever want to follow the podcast, I always post the VODs on this thread on the mortalonline2.com forums. So if you ever want to see the old podcasts or keep up to date when the next one's coming type stuff, you can always go to this forums. Okay, guys? And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream, and I'm going to send the raid over to Squirrely. So you guys should definitely go follow him, and also Robmo's channel as well. I don't have their links, unfortunately, but I'm going to send the raid over to Squirrely, and then also check out Robmo's channel as well, guys. And thank you again for coming. Thank you, Reznikov TV for the follow. Appreciate that. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace, boys.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't pin me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about, have your fucking cloud. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
Easy. How about thank you, boss? Oh, dude, thank you. Dude, Punch, thank you.